Create intense eye contact. Eye contact is a powerful yet often underestimated tool in the realm of dark seduction. At its core, this technique involves locking eyes with someone in a way that feels almost magnetic. It's not just about looking at someone, it's about holding their gaze with purpose, intensity, and intention. When done right, eye contact can make someone feel as though you're seeing right through them, touching a primal part of their psyche. This connection can make the other person feel deeply exposed and, paradoxically, incredibly drawn to you. From a psychological standpoint, intense eye contact creates a sense of dominance and control. It triggers a flood of chemicals in the brain, such as dopamine and oxytocin, which make people feel good but also slightly unsettled. The discomfort of sustained eye contact, combined with the release of these feel-good hormones, creates an addictive tension. You're making them feel both captivated and vulnerable at the same time. When you maintain intense eye contact, it feels as if you're letting the other person in, showing them something deeper, yet withholding just enough to keep them intrigued. It creates a power imbalance without the other person even realizing it. They begin to feel an intense urge to connect, to understand, to unravel you, and all the while, you remain a mystery, just out of reach but never out of sight. This lingering gaze does not just communicate interest, it exudes control, marking you as someone who demands attention and, ultimately, admiration. Use powerful body language. Body language is a silent force that speaks volumes in the art of dark seduction. It's not the words you say, but the way you carry yourself, the movements you make, and the space you occupy that draws others in. Powerful body language is about exuding confidence, control, and unshakable presence without saying a word. It commands attention, creating an aura that pulls people toward you. It's in the way you stand, straight, grounded, with your shoulders back and chest open. It's in how you move, slow, deliberate, and confident, making every action seem purposeful and captivating. When you use powerful body language, you are not just speaking to the person in front of you. You are subtly asserting dominance over the space, making it clear that you are someone worthy of respect. Your movements are a declaration of self-assurance, leaving no room for doubt about your confidence. It makes others feel both captivated and small in your presence, creating an unspoken tension that makes them want to stay close, to figure you out, to submit to the magnetic pull of your energy. The beauty of powerful body language is that it can be entirely subconscious, yet it still sends a message loud and clear. By occupying space with purpose, you make people aware of your presence without ever having to demand it. It's a subtle yet profound way of making others feel that you are the center of their world, drawing them in with every movement, leaving them powerless to look away. Be unpredictable in your actions. Unpredictability is a dark trick that disrupts the sense of stability and control in a person's mind, leaving them off balance and craving answers that never seem to come. The key to mastering this technique lies in keeping others constantly guessing about your next move, your next word, or even your next emotion. When you are unpredictable, you create a sense of mystery, and that mystery becomes an intoxicating force, compelling those around you to stay engaged, to follow, and to try to figure you out. Imagine this. One moment, you might be warm and engaging, and the next, you withdraw into cold indifference. You speak in a tone that is soothing one second, then harsh and direct the next. This erratic behavior forces others to constantly adjust, to recalibrate their perceptions of you, and it keeps them on their toes. This creates a deep psychological tension, as they can never truly predict how you will behave, and that uncertainty sparks a desire to gain control over it. This unpredictability plays on their deepest fears, the fear of being left out, the fear of being abandoned, the fear of never truly understanding you. As their minds race to find patterns, to crack your code, They become emotionally invested in you in ways they cannot explain. You control the narrative, manipulating their need for stability while offering nothing but emotional chaos. It is a game of mental chess where you hold all the power and they are desperately trying to catch up, trapped in a web you've carefully woven. Maintain an air of mystery about yourself. Mystery is one of the most alluring and dangerous tools in the arsenal of dark seduction. To maintain an air of mystery is to leave fragments of yourself scattered just out of reach, making others yearn to understand you while never fully giving them the satisfaction. It's in the deliberate withholding of details, the quiet pauses that invite curiosity, and the subtle contradictions in your personality that make others question what they truly know about you. When you cloak yourself in mystery, you create an emotional hunger in others, an insatiable desire to peel back your layers, to discover your truth, only to find that the closer they get, the more elusive you become. The power of mystery lies in the tension it creates. People are naturally drawn to the unknown, and the human mind is wired to seek out answers. When you maintain that shroud of enigma, it makes others feel as though they are on the cusp of something profound, yet they can never quite reach it. It's a psychological game, one that plays on their need for understanding, their need for control. You keep them dangling, forever intrigued, forever chasing, never fully satisfied. By keeping your intentions ambiguous and your past shrouded in shadows, you tap into a primal need for exploration. People don't just want to know you, they need to. And the deeper they delve into your mystery, the more power you hold over them. In the end, they will find themselves trapped in the web you've woven, unable to escape the allure of your unknowable self. Mirror the other person's movements subtly. Mirroring is a psychological trick that taps into the deepest human instincts, creating an unconscious bond that can be used to influence and dominate. The act of subtly mimicking someone's body language, gestures, or even their tone of voice establishes a sense of familiarity, making them feel as though you are in sync with them. This creates an unspoken connection, a silent agreement that you are alike, that you share something deeper than mere conversation. The beauty of this technique lies in its subtlety. If you mirror someone's movements without them noticing, it has a magical effect. They feel more comfortable, more at ease, and more drawn to you. They begin to subconsciously trust you, to feel as though they've found someone who understands them, someone who is just like them. Humans are wired to trust those who reflect their behavior because it signals similarity and rapport. When you mirror someone, you trigger this innate reaction, making them feel seen and validated. Their mind begins to relax, letting their guard down, and in that moment, you have their attention, their trust, and their emotional connection. This allows you to influence their decisions, their feelings, and ultimately, their actions. The power of this technique lies in its invisible nature. If you do it too overtly, it becomes awkward, even manipulative. But when done right, when you mirror their posture, their gestures, or even their speech patterns without them realizing, it becomes a silent but powerful tool that creates an invisible bond, one that positions you as an ally, a confidant, or a force they can't resist. Use silence as a tool of tension. Silence is an incredibly powerful weapon in the art of dark seduction, wielding an intensity that words cannot match. It is the void between conversations, the stillness that makes the air feel thick, and the space that forces others to fill it. When you use silence deliberately, it becomes an unspoken challenge, an invitation for the other person to lean in, to make assumptions, to expose their vulnerability in the hope of breaking the tension. In that silence, you hold the power, and they are left desperately searching for something, anything, to fill the void you have created. The key to using silence effectively lies in timing. A pause after a significant statement or a question that is left unanswered leaves the mind of the other person racing, questioning motives, analyzing every small detail for meaning. In these moments, their insecurities surface, their need for validation becomes unbearable, and they find themselves drawn to you like a moth to a flame. The longer the silence lingers, the more palpable the tension becomes, and the more desperate they feel to break it. This psychological pressure forces them into a reactive state. They may try to speak to ease their discomfort, but no matter how they fill the silence, the control remains in your hands. It is the masterful manipulation of time and anticipation, making them feel the weight of every second that passes. The silence builds an emotional bridge that words alone can never construct, making your presence undeniable and your influence unshakable. The unspoken speaks louder than any conversation ever could. Speak in a slow, deliberate manner. The way you speak can be a tool of immense psychological influence, and speaking in a slow, deliberate manner is one of the most effective dark seduction tricks. When you speak slowly, each word carries weight, and every sentence feels intentional. It draws attention to your voice, making the listener lean in, hang on every syllable, and try to grasp the deeper meaning behind your words. The deliberate pace creates a hypnotic rhythm, forcing the listener to become more present, more focused on you, and less likely to stray into their own thoughts. This technique is not just about controlling the pace of conversation, it's about controlling the emotional charge of the moment. By speaking slowly, you build anticipation and create a sense of suspense. You allow silence to hang between your words, which forces the other person to fill that space with their own curiosity. It's in these pauses that power resides, the power to make them wait, to make them want to know what comes next, to make them feel as though they are hanging on the precipice of something profound. Slow speech also exudes confidence and control. It tells others that you are in no rush, that you know your worth and are not afraid to take your time. This creates an undercurrent of dominance that seeps into the dynamic, making the listener feel as if they must listen more carefully, as if they are somehow at your mercy to receive the next piece of your carefully chosen words. And as they hang on your every utterance, you are weaving an invisible thread of influence that leaves them wanting more, powerless to resist the allure of your voice. Allow moments of vulnerability. Vulnerability is a subtle yet incredibly powerful tool in the realm of dark seduction. On the surface, allowing yourself to be vulnerable might seem like a weakness, but in reality, it is an irresistible invitation to intimacy and connection. When you reveal small glimpses of your hidden emotions, your fears, or your flaws, it creates a momentary crack in your otherwise impenetrable exterior. This fleeting vulnerability triggers an intense emotional response in others, making them feel as though they have touched something raw and real, something they want to protect, to nurture, to understand. The key to using vulnerability effectively is in the timing and the control you exert over it. When done strategically, these moments of openness leave others feeling emotionally invested in you, making them feel both protective and empathetic toward you. It's a delicate balancing act. You allow just enough to let them in, but not so much that you lose your power or control. These moments of emotional honesty become windows through which others catch a glimpse of your depth, and they cannot help but be drawn in further. At the same time, vulnerability creates a paradox. By showing your cracks, you don't appear weak. Instead, you appear more human, more real, and this authenticity pulls others toward you. They begin to feel a sense of closeness, a bond forged through shared understanding, even if that understanding is only one-sided. You've made them care, and in doing so, you hold a part of their heart in your hands. But when you pull away, just as they are beginning to open up, you leave them craving more, unsure of where they stand, but desperate for your approval. Flirt with subtle touches. Touch is a primal and deeply intimate form of communication, and when used strategically, it becomes a powerful weapon in the art of dark seduction. Subtle touches can send electric signals through someone's body, stirring emotions and desires that they might not even be aware of. These small, seemingly innocent gestures, brushing a hand against their arm, a brief touch on the shoulder, or a gentle graze of the leg under the table, can create a level of intimacy that words alone can't achieve. When done right, these touches don't just signal affection, they provoke a sense of longing, a quiet anticipation that builds without the person fully understanding why. Flirting with touch is about sending mixed signals, creating a game of push and pull that leaves the other person constantly wondering where they stand with you. It's a slow, deliberate process of increasing closeness, escalating just enough to keep them intrigued, but never crossing the line into discomfort. The beauty of this technique is that it plays on their senses, bypassing logic and diving straight into their emotional core. A soft touch can ignite a wave of emotions, triggering feelings of warmth, attraction, and even vulnerability. Subtle touches are powerful because they speak in a language that bypasses reason, creating a connection that feels both familiar and thrillingly new. It's a dance of proximity and distance, offering just enough to keep them wanting more, leaving them emotionally charged and mentally obsessed with you. And as the tension builds, they will find themselves hooked, desperate to decode the energy you've created without ever truly understanding how you've ensnared them. Play on their insecurities. In the realm of dark seduction, few tricks are as potent as tapping into a person's deepest insecurities. These hidden fears and self-doubts are raw, vulnerable places that, when manipulated skillfully, can create a powerful emotional leverage over them. The key to playing on insecurities lies in subtlety and precision, navigating these fears without outright exposing them, yet allowing just enough to surface to cause discomfort. When done right, it makes the person feel seen in ways that are both intoxicating and unnerving. Insecurity, by its nature, is an Achilles' heel for the human psyche. Everyone carries these secret flaws, whether it's about their appearance, their intelligence, their social status, or their worthiness. When you know how to target those weaknesses, you introduce a sense of doubt and vulnerability into their self-image. You don't need to outright insult or belittle them. Instead, you plant seeds of doubt, leaving them questioning their value in your eyes. This subtle manipulation keeps them emotionally hooked, desperate for reassurance, validation, or the chance to prove their worthiness. By appearing to be effortlessly superior or unattainable, you make them feel inferior, triggering their desire to prove themselves to you. This dynamic pulls them into your orbit, forcing them to seek your approval, your validation, all while remaining blind to the fact that you've set the stage for this emotional dance. The deeper their insecurities, the more potent the effect. You become the source of their validation and the object of their obsession, holding the power to either build them up or tear them down, all in the palm of your hand. Use their name frequently. The power of a person's name is a psychological tool that's often underestimated in the realm of dark seduction. Hearing their name spoken by you creates an immediate connection, a subtle but profound recognition of their individuality. It's more than just a word. It's a trigger for their sense of identity, a reminder of their importance in your world. When you use their name frequently, you are not just speaking to them, you are speaking to their very core, creating an unspoken bond that they may not even realize is forming. This tactic taps into the deep, almost primal need to be seen and acknowledged. Our names are inherently tied to our sense of self, and when someone uses them often, it can feel like a form of validation. It makes the person feel valued, as though they matter to you in a personal, unique way. But there's a darker side to this. The more you use their name, the more you assert your presence in their mind. It begins to anchor them to you emotionally, so that every time they hear it, their thoughts drift back to you, even when you're not around. The frequency with which you use their name also adds an element of control. It creates a rhythm, a subtle command that guides their attention and emotional state. You condition them to respond not just to the sound of their name, but to the emotional charge you've attached to it. The more you do this, the more their mind begins to connect their name to you, to your presence, to your influence. And as they become increasingly aware of the power you wield over them, they will crave your attention even more, drawn in by the hypnotic repetition of their own identity, now intertwined with yours. Act confident, but not arrogant. Confidence, when wielded correctly, is an undeniable magnet that pulls others toward you. It's not about boasting or demanding attention. It's about exuding a quiet, unwavering belief in your worth and abilities. Confidence in dark seduction is the art of walking into a room and knowing, without a shadow of doubt, that you belong there, without the need to shout it out. It's the way you hold yourself, standing tall, with purpose and poise. Every movement, every word, every glance is deliberate and controlled, but it's crucial that this confidence remains subtle. When it crosses into arrogance, it becomes repellent. Confidence invites, while arrogance demands. When you act confidently, others are drawn to your energy, your self-assurance. They want to be near you, to bask in the aura you create. But when that confidence tips into arrogance, you start to alienate, making others feel small or unimportant in your presence. The delicate balance between the two is what gives you power. You make others feel that you are above them, not through grand gestures or statements, but through your composed presence, your lack of neediness, your ability to stand firm without overcompensating. This quiet confidence leaves others wanting your approval, your attention, your validation. They are intrigued by your calm demeanor, trying to decipher what makes you tick. They long to know what's behind that self-assured exterior. It's a slow burn, one that makes them yearn for your presence, to bask in the glow of your certainty without ever feeling inferior. And in that space, you hold all the power without ever needing to flaunt it. Make them chase after your approval. In the delicate game of dark seduction, one of the most potent strategies is to make the other person crave your approval. This technique is rooted in the primal human need for validation and recognition. People yearn to be seen, to be acknowledged, and to feel worthy of someone's attention. By withholding your approval, you create a psychological void that the other person will instinctively strive to fill. They will begin to chase after your approval, desperate to earn your favor, and in doing so, they will place you in a position of control over their emotions and actions. When you make someone chase after your approval, you tap into their deepest insecurities and desires. The longer you withhold your praise or recognition, the more they will seek it, obsessing over what they can do to gain your validation. This constant need to prove themselves becomes a powerful force, causing them to become more attuned to your wants, your needs, and your desires. They will begin to focus all their energy on impressing you, carefully observing your every reaction and adjusting their behavior in ways that they believe will win your favor. The beauty of this technique lies in its subtlety. You don't need to overtly criticize or reject them. Simply showing indifference, withholding affirmation, or offering praise sparingly is enough. This creates a dynamic where they are perpetually chasing after a prize they can't fully grasp, which only makes them want it more. As they chase, they become more emotionally invested, more dependent on your approval, and ultimately more malleable to your influence. Appear emotionally unavailable. Appearing emotionally unavailable is one of the most effective and dangerous strategies in dark seduction. At its core, it's about creating an emotional distance that leaves others yearning for a connection they can never fully attain. This technique works because humans have an innate need for connection, and when they sense that someone is emotionally out of reach, it triggers a deep, almost primal urge to bridge that gap. It makes them feel as if they must chase after you, to break through the walls you've carefully built around your emotions. When you appear emotionally unavailable, you become a puzzle, a mystery that people feel compelled to solve. You give just enough of yourself to create curiosity, but you always pull back before they can get too close. This dynamic causes them to fixate on you, trying to decode your mood, your behavior, your desires. You control the pace of the relationship, offering moments of warmth followed by cold detachment, making them constantly question where they stand. Each time they feel like they've made progress, you retreat again, reinforcing the emotional distance. This unpredictability creates tension, pushing them to invest more emotionally, hoping that one day they will break through your emotional walls. But the more they chase, the more elusive you become, feeding into the cycle of desire and frustration. The result is a power imbalance that places you in control of their emotions, leaving them obsessed, insecure, and desperate for your approval. Through emotional unavailability, you become the object of their obsession, while they remain locked in an endless pursuit of something they can never quite attain. Create emotional highs and lows. The art of creating emotional highs and lows is a manipulation tactic that plays on the most powerful human emotions: desire, uncertainty, and fear. By deliberately oscillating between moments of intense emotional connection and sudden withdrawal, you stir a whirlwind of feelings that leaves the other person utterly entranced and helpless to break free. One moment you'll shower them with warmth, kindness, and affection, making them feel special, important, and emotionally safe. Then, in the blink of an eye, you pull away, distancing yourself, becoming cold, distant, and emotionally unavailable. This shift triggers a rush of confusion and longing, forcing them to chase the warmth they once felt, desperate to reclaim the connection that you've just taken away. The psychological effect of these emotional peaks and valleys is profound. The highs make them feel validated, loved, and wanted, feelings that are intensely addictive. These moments give them a taste of emotional intimacy, one that they will crave even more. But when you pull away, the resulting lows leave them vulnerable, insecure, and unsure. This push and pull creates a dynamic where they begin to feel that their emotional stability is tied to your presence and approval. It evokes an emotional dependence where the uncertainty of when the next high will come only deepens their desire for it. What's most powerful is how this tactic plays on their own need for consistency and comfort. Every time you withhold affection or attention, it ignites a deep yearning for the emotional highs you've shown them, and they will find themselves doing whatever it takes to make you give it to them again. They will constantly seek validation, ever more willing to meet your needs, all while unknowingly giving you complete control over their emotional landscape. Keep them guessing about your intentions. The art of keeping someone guessing about your intentions is a masterstroke in psychological manipulation and seduction. It's about creating a sense of uncertainty and intrigue that lingers in their mind, making them second-guess their every move and emotion. When you keep someone unsure about your true motives, it disrupts their sense of control, forcing them to focus on deciphering your actions and intentions instead of acting with clarity themselves. This state of confusion drives them into a mental loop, constantly trying to predict you, understand you, and figure out where they stand with you. The brilliance of this tactic lies in its ability to create tension. Humans crave certainty, and when you withhold that certainty, you become a source of fascination. They'll begin to overanalyze every interaction, looking for clues, searching for meaning in every word, every look, every gesture you make. In their quest for understanding, they may become obsessed with you, drawn deeper into the emotional and psychological web you've spun. By shifting your behavior, being unpredictable, or offering mixed signals, you make them feel as though they're always on the edge of a discovery, but never quite reaching it. This builds emotional intensity as they constantly seek reassurance that you're interested, but never receive it in the form they expect. It plays on their vulnerability, giving just enough to keep them hooked, but never allowing them to fully possess the clarity they desperately crave. The result is a dynamic where they feel compelled to keep coming back, trying to figure out who you really are and, more dangerously, who you want them to be. Use compliments to manipulate self-image. Compliments, when used with intention, can be one of the most potent tools in the dark art of seduction. At first glance, they seem harmless, praise for someone's appearance, intelligence, or abilities. But when wielded with precision, compliments become a powerful weapon to subtly shape and manipulate the way someone perceives themselves. By highlighting certain qualities or traits that align with their deepest desires or insecurities, you can craft an idealized version of themselves, one that makes them crave your approval and validation more than anything. The key to using compliments as manipulation lies in specificity and timing. You don't just tell someone they look good, you focus on something particular: the curve of their smile, the intensity in their eyes, the way they carry themselves. This kind of praise hits closer to home, striking a deeper chord. By making them feel special, unique, and almost irreplaceable in your eyes, you create an emotional attachment. They begin to view themselves through the lens you've crafted, subtly reshaping their self-image based on the way you see them. But the true power of compliments in this dark seduction lies in how you withhold them. You don't shower them with praise at every turn. Instead, you sprinkle them sparingly, making each one feel more valuable, more significant. This scarcity intensifies the impact, forcing them to seek your approval more desperately. Over time, they start to measure their worth by how you perceive them, and in doing so, they become addicted to the emotional validation you provide. You control their self-image, making them more malleable, more eager to please, and ultimately, more under your influence. Use their desires against them. Desire is a force so powerful that it can easily cloud judgment and warp reality. By understanding what a person truly wants, whether it's love, power, validation, or acceptance, you can subtly manipulate these desires to draw them into your web. The trick lies in using their deepest yearnings against them, making them feel as though they are getting closer to what they crave, while keeping it just out of reach, always on the horizon but never fully attainable. The process begins by identifying their desires, tapping into their fantasies, and reflecting back to them exactly what they think they want. You become the embodiment of their most burning wishes, making them feel seen, understood, and validated in a way they have never experienced before. The emotional investment starts to build as they begin to crave not just your attention, but the fulfillment of that desire, which they now associate with you. However, the real power comes from never fully delivering. You offer glimpses of what they want, moments where they feel as though they are on the brink of attaining their desires, and then you pull away, denying them the satisfaction they seek. This creates an addiction as they begin to crave not just your presence, but the elusive fulfillment you have dangled before them. The closer they get, the more desperate they become to obtain it. As they chase after what they think they want, you subtly steer their actions, manipulating their every move to serve your own ends. They will do whatever it takes to earn your approval, to secure the desire they so desperately seek, all while you remain the keeper of the key to their emotional vulnerability, holding their deepest longings hostage, with no intention of ever fully unlocking them. Become their escape from reality. In the midst of life's chaos, everyone craves an escape, something or someone that offers a break from the relentless grind of day-to-day existence. By positioning yourself as that escape, you tap into one of the most powerful and subtle forces of dark seduction. It's not about offering solutions or taking away their problems, but rather about creating a space where they can momentarily forget their responsibilities, their worries, and their inner turmoil. You become the breath of fresh air they didn't know they needed, the fantasy that sweeps them away from the mundane. When you become their escape, you offer them a momentary sanctuary. Every interaction with you feels like a brief reprieve from the weight of their reality. You don't just talk to them, you draw them into a world that exists only when they are with you. Your presence is their distraction, your words their comfort, and your energy the refuge from the storm they live in. This is not about solving their problems. It's about creating an emotional space where they feel free, unburdened, and alive. This technique works because humans are naturally drawn to relief, and by being that relief, you anchor yourself deeply into their minds. They begin to associate you with comfort, with safety, with the emotional release they long for. Over time, they become more dependent on you, unknowingly seeking out your company as a form of emotional release. In doing so, you hold the power to shape their world, to control when they feel most alive, and to keep them returning to you again and again for that escape they can't find anywhere else. Control the pace of the conversation. Controlling the pace of a conversation is a psychological tactic that puts you firmly in the driver's seat, shaping the flow of interaction to suit your desires. It's about mastering the rhythm, knowing when to speed up, when to slow down, and when to create moments of silence that leave the other person hanging, desperately waiting for you to speak again. This subtle manipulation of tempo creates a psychological tension, keeping the other person engaged and, more importantly, off balance. When you control the pace, you dictate the emotional highs and lows of the conversation. You can heighten anticipation by slowing your speech or pausing at key moments, making your words seem more significant and making the other person eagerly await your next move. On the other hand, by speeding up or speaking quickly, you can create a sense of urgency or excitement, making them feel the pressure to respond in kind, often without fully thinking through their words. In moments of silence, when you leave gaps in the conversation, you force them to fill that space, which can make them more vulnerable to your influence. The longer the pause, the more they start to question the dynamic, wondering if they've said something wrong or if they're losing your attention. This gives you control over their emotions, creating discomfort or deep interest, depending on what you want to achieve. Mastering this technique means having the confidence to control the conversation without appearing too obvious. When done correctly, it makes you seem magnetic and elusive, drawing the other person deeper into your web, constantly trying to catch up, never quite knowing where they stand. Make them feel special, then distant. The power of making someone feel special and then pulling away is an emotionally charged tactic that creates a psychological roller coaster, leaving them both elated and confused. At first, you shower them with attention, praise, and moments that make them feel as if they are the center of your world. You give them the impression that they are unique, irreplaceable, and seen in a way that no one else can match. This floods their mind with positive reinforcement, making them feel valued and important in your presence. They bask in this attention, believing they've unlocked a deeper connection with you. But then, just as quickly, you withdraw. You become distant, emotionally unavailable, or hard to reach. The warmth and affection that they had come to expect suddenly vanish, leaving them in a void of uncertainty and longing. This abrupt shift creates a vacuum where they once felt safe and secure, and now they are left desperately craving your presence, your validation, your approval. The sudden emotional withdrawal triggers anxiety, self-doubt, and confusion, forcing them to constantly question what went wrong. The brilliance of this tactic is that it keeps them hooked. They are now emotionally invested in your affection and approval, but they can never quite predict when it will come or go. The emotional highs and lows you create make them feel as if they are constantly earning your love, while simultaneously keeping them in a state of emotional unrest. Over time, this dynamic strengthens your control over them as they begin to tie their emotional well-being to your attention, forever chasing the approval that you withhold just enough to keep them coming back for more. Keep your conversations vague and open-ended. In the realm of dark seduction, the power of vagueness cannot be overstated. By keeping your conversations deliberately open-ended, you create an air of mystery that lingers long after the words have left your lips. The key to this technique is not to offer clear answers or fully explain yourself. Instead, leave just enough ambiguity to provoke curiosity, confusion, and desire for more. When you speak in ways that are non-committal and elusive, you place the listener in a state of perpetual wondering, making them feel as though they are only scratching the surface of something far deeper and more complicated. This vague communication creates a sense of longing, as the other person is never quite sure where they stand with you. It is emotionally intoxicating because humans have an inherent need for closure, for understanding. When that need is denied, their minds begin to race, trying to piece together the puzzle you've presented them. The absence of clear answers leaves them craving resolution, and in that craving, they start to become more deeply invested in you, hoping that the next conversation, the next word, will provide them with the clarity they so desperately seek. What makes this technique so potent is how it plays on the human psyche's need for certainty. By withholding definitive answers, you force the other person to engage in a mental chase, where they feel as though they are constantly searching for the hidden meaning behind your words. The more they question, the more they seek, and the more power you have. They begin to fill in the gaps with their own assumptions, often shaping their perception of you into something more compelling, more intriguing, something they feel compelled to understand. Appear elusive and hard to get. Elusiveness is a dark art in seduction that stirs a dangerous mix of desire and frustration. It's not about playing games or pretending to be uninterested. It's about creating a subtle, magnetic pull that keeps others chasing after you, always on the edge of knowing you, but never quite reaching the core. When you appear elusive, you position yourself as something rare, something just out of reach. You don't give everything away at once. You reveal just enough to spark curiosity, but withhold enough to make others crave more. It's the psychological dance of offering just enough to keep them hooked, but never enough to completely satisfy them. The power in being elusive lies in the tension you create. When you're hard to get, you trigger a primal need for conquest, for proving that they can unlock the mystery you represent. You don't make yourself available all the time, and when you do, your attention is measured and strategic. You show interest but keep them guessing. One moment you're engaging and present. The next, you retreat, leaving them wondering what went wrong or what they could have done differently to earn more of your time. This inconsistency feeds into their desire, making your attention feel like a coveted prize they are constantly striving to obtain. As they continue to chase, they begin to invest more emotionally, their thoughts consumed by how they can gain more of your elusive presence. They'll do whatever it takes to break through your barriers, unknowingly handing you all the power. In the end, it's not about how much you withhold, but how much you make them want it. By being elusive, you position yourself as the prize, never truly attainable, but always within reach, and that is the most intoxicating game of all. Tease them with what they can't have. The art of teasing someone with what they can't have is a brilliant strategy that taps into the human psyche's deepest desires, specifically the craving for something just out of reach. It plays on a psychological principle known as the forbidden fruit effect. When you offer someone a taste of what they want, but immediately take it away, you create an intense sense of longing and frustration. This builds a magnetic tension, making them focus all their energy on obtaining what you've hinted at, while all the while you remain the elusive source of their desire. This technique works because it leverages one of the most primal instincts, scarcity. Humans are wired to want what they can't have, and by showing them something they desire but denying them full access, you make them feel as though they're missing out on something valuable. It creates a burning desire to possess, to claim, to achieve that unattainable goal, and in their pursuit, they become emotionally invested in you, in what you represent. Whether it's withholding affection, praise, or your full attention, this teasing dynamic keeps the other person hooked, constantly pursuing the approval or closeness they crave but can't quite reach. The emotional tug-of-war you create builds obsession as they begin to associate you with both pleasure and frustration, two powerful emotions that reinforce their need to get closer. The more you give just enough to keep them guessing, the more their mind becomes consumed with winning what you've so tantalizingly withheld, cementing your hold on their thoughts and desires. Engage in intellectual sparring. Intellectual sparring is a subtle yet powerful form of mental manipulation in dark seduction. It involves engaging in stimulating, challenging conversations that keep the other person on edge, constantly trying to prove their worth, their intelligence, or their perspective. At first glance, this might seem like simple banter or casual debate, but it serves a much deeper purpose. By provoking them intellectually, you create a mental game where their thoughts and ideas become a battleground for your dominance. You test their limits, pushing them to defend their beliefs, often leading them to feel as if they're under scrutiny. The beauty of intellectual sparring lies in its ability to disarm through complexity. You don't outright insult or belittle their ideas. Instead, you raise questions that challenge their worldview, subtly planting seeds of doubt and forcing them to reevaluate their position. You may not even provide answers, just more questions that leave them scrambling to make sense of what you've raised. This constant mental challenge keeps them engaged, but also slightly off balance, because they're never quite sure where they stand in the conversation. As the sparring continues, the other person begins to crave your validation more and more. They want to be seen as worthy, as intelligent, as capable of holding their own in this intellectual battle. The more you provoke them, the more they invest in proving themselves to you. And with every back and forth, you tighten your grip on their thoughts, subtly shaping how they see themselves in relation to you. It's not just a battle of ideas, it's a psychological game where you control the narrative and keep them desperately seeking your approval, all while never quite allowing them to win. Make them feel they need to earn your attention. In the world of dark seduction, making someone feel as though they must earn your attention is a tactic that exudes power and control. The simple act of withholding your focus and interest until they've proven their worth creates an emotional dynamic that is both challenging and intoxicating. People are naturally drawn to what they can't have, and when you make them work for your time and attention, you tap into their deep desire to feel valued, validated, and important in your eyes. By being selectively attentive, you make your approval feel like a rare and valuable commodity. When they know that your attention is not freely given, it amplifies its worth in their mind. They begin to chase after your approval, doing whatever it takes to gain your favor. The longer you withhold it, the more desperately they will work to get closer to you, driven by the need to prove they are worthy. This dynamic plays on their ego, their desire for recognition, and their need for validation. As they make efforts to earn your attention, they start to invest more emotionally in the connection. The more they chase, the more their sense of self-worth becomes intertwined with your approval. This subtle manipulation places you in control of their emotions, making them feel as though their value is directly tied to your gaze, your words, and your presence. The more they work for it, the more they believe they need you, reinforcing their emotional dependency on your selective attention. Speak in riddles to leave them pondering. Speaking in riddles is a dark seduction tactic that taps into the deep, irresistible need for understanding and resolution. It's not just about being cryptic for the sake of it, it's about weaving layers of meaning into your words that leave others craving answers. When you speak in riddles, you plant seeds of curiosity that grow into an obsession. Your words become puzzles they can't ignore, challenges their minds can't stop trying to solve. This technique creates a psychological tension that pulls people into your orbit, forcing them to think about you long after the conversation ends. Riddles don't offer immediate answers, and that is exactly what makes them so powerful. They spark confusion, curiosity, and an irresistible urge to understand. By speaking in riddles, you manipulate the natural human desire for closure. When someone cannot fully understand what you've said, their mind becomes consumed by it, unable to rest until they have unlocked the meaning behind your words. It's a form of mental stimulation that keeps them thinking about you, wondering if they missed something, trying to decipher the layers of your intent. This technique is particularly effective because it appeals to the subconscious need to feel intellectually challenged and mentally stimulated. When you speak in riddles, you don't just communicate, you engage their mind in a deeper, more personal way. They'll be left pondering your every word, eager to make sense of it, eager to connect the dots. In the process, you've made them emotionally and mentally invested in you, and the more they try to decode you, the more they'll find themselves entangled in your web of mystery. Leverage their jealousy against them. Jealousy is one of the most powerful emotions you can manipulate in the game of dark seduction. It's a primal, uncontrollable feeling that makes people desperate for validation and attention. By strategically provoking their jealousy, you tap into a deep emotional vulnerability that can drive them to do things they never thought they would. The key is to create situations where they feel threatened by the idea of losing you, or by the possibility that someone else might capture your attention, affection, or approval. When you subtly stoke the fires of jealousy, you make them feel possessive and desperate for your attention, all while you remain in control of the dynamic. The beauty of using jealousy lies in its ability to blur rational thought. When someone feels jealous, their emotions take over, pushing them to react in ways that prioritize their insecurity rather than their true feelings. You don't have to be overt about it. Simply talking about your interactions with others in a way that hints at your closeness or attraction to someone else can set their jealousy into motion. You could mention how others admire you or casually refer to people vying for your attention, making them feel the sting of competition. As jealousy festers, it transforms into a toxic need to win your favor, to prove they are the one you should choose. They will start to behave in ways that reflect their desperation, trying harder, investing more emotionally, and constantly seeking reassurance that you won't slip away. This puts you in a position of power as you become the prize they must earn, driving them deeper into the web of your influence, unable to break free from the emotional grip you've placed on them. Use humor to disarm them. Humor, when used strategically, can be one of the most effective tools in dark seduction. It has the power to disarm, lower defenses, and make someone feel comfortable enough to reveal their true selves. When wielded with intent, humor can shift the power dynamic, making others feel relaxed, yet emotionally vulnerable in your presence. At its core, humor allows you to bypass the intellectual and emotional barriers people erect, cutting through the tension and creating an atmosphere where you hold control over the emotional tone of the interaction. The magic of humor lies in its ability to make people feel at ease, but also in the subtle ways it can be used to undermine or subtly manipulate. A well-timed joke or a clever remark can cause them to drop their guard, causing them to momentarily forget their reservations and self-consciousness. Once their defenses are down, you can slip in small manipulations, creating emotional nudges that go unnoticed because they were wrapped in laughter. Humor creates an opening for influence without seeming overtly manipulative, masking your true intentions behind a veil of lightheartedness. However, humor also allows you to maintain a sense of control over the situation. By steering the conversation with your wit, you dictate the emotional flow, guiding others to laugh when you want them to, and leaving them in moments of silence when you pull back. This emotional push and pull creates an addictive dynamic where they begin to crave your approval and your humor, eager to bask in the attention you grant them through your jokes. It is through this disarming humor that you subtly position yourself as someone to be sought after, making the other person emotionally hooked on your presence, your wit, and your ability to make them feel both special and entertained. Let them do most of the talking. One of the most subtle yet powerful dark seduction tactics is letting the other person do most of the talking. By doing so, you position yourself as a silent observer, someone who listens intently without ever revealing too much about yourself. This technique creates an illusion of intimacy where the other person feels they are connecting with you on a deeper level, all the while revealing more about themselves than they ever intended. When you stay quiet and let them speak, you give them the space to project their thoughts, desires, and emotions onto you. They start to believe they're in control of the conversation, that they're the ones who have your attention. But in reality, you are the one pulling the strings. The more they talk, the more you learn about their vulnerabilities, their insecurities, and their deepest desires. Each word they utter provides you with ammunition to subtly influence their perception of you and steer the relationship in your favor. People have an inherent need to be heard, and by allowing them to do most of the talking, you satisfy this need, making them feel valued and understood. This emotional investment deepens as they pour their thoughts into you, thinking that you are there simply to listen. However, in reality, you are collecting everything you need to manipulate their emotions and desires. Over time, they will crave your attention, eager to continue speaking and drawing closer to you, unaware that they've unwittingly handed you the power to control the direction of the relationship. Make them think they're in control. The illusion of control is one of the most powerful and insidious tactics in dark seduction. It's about guiding someone to believe they are calling the shots, while, in reality, you are subtly directing the course of the interaction. By allowing them to think they are in control, you lower their defenses and make them feel empowered. This sense of autonomy creates a psychological bond, as people naturally gravitate towards situations where they feel they have power and influence. To master this technique, you must first understand the subtle art of manipulation through suggestion. You offer choices that seem significant but are carefully constructed to lead them down a path you've already decided. You let them make decisions, express their desires, and voice their opinions, but all the while, you guide the narrative in a way that keeps you firmly in control. It's not about forcing compliance, but about allowing them to believe their actions are their own, while you silently orchestrate every step. The beauty of this method lies in the emotional attachment it creates. When someone believes they are in control, they feel a sense of ownership, a sense of pride in the decisions they make. This attachment becomes deeper and more intense as they invest more emotionally in their choices. However, what they don't realize is that every choice they've made has been carefully shaped by your influence, making them feel as though they have shaped the outcome themselves. This tactic not only makes them feel emotionally invested, but it also makes them more likely to act in your favor when the time comes. They will feel that they've chosen to be with you, not because of any manipulation, but because they think they've had the freedom to decide. Introduce subtle contradictions to confuse them. Introducing subtle contradictions into your interactions is a dark and powerful tactic that destabilizes a person's sense of certainty and control. This technique is all about planting seeds of doubt and creating cognitive dissonance, making the other person question everything they thought they knew about you and themselves. When you offer opposing statements, behaviors, or emotions that don't quite align, it forces their mind into a state of confusion and uncertainty. They can no longer rely on their perceptions or assumptions, leaving them emotionally vulnerable and mentally disoriented, always trying to make sense of the inconsistencies you present. These contradictions can be as simple as acting warm and affectionate one moment only to become distant and aloof the next. You might tell them one thing, only to later do something that contradicts your words. You could praise them for something, then subtly criticize the very trait you once admired. These inconsistencies make them feel like they're walking on emotional quicksand, unsure of how to interpret your actions or where they stand in relation to you. The psychological impact of this confusion is profound. People crave consistency and predictability in their relationships, and when you create a pattern of contradictions, you erode their sense of security. Their mind becomes fixated on trying to resolve the contradictions, leaving them mentally obsessed with you. As they attempt to decipher your true intentions, they become more dependent on your validation, constantly searching for clues that may or may not exist. This emotional instability makes them more pliable to your influence, desperate for clarity that you may never provide. Always leave them wanting more. The art of leaving someone wanting more is the dark seduction trick that plays on the power of anticipation and desire. It's about knowing when to pull back, when to leave the interaction at its peak, so the other person is left hanging, emotionally charged, and craving the next moment with you. The brilliance of this technique is that it exploits the human tendency to yearn for what is just out of reach. By never fully satisfying their curiosity, their need for your attention, or their desire for connection, you create a psychological gap that only you can fill. When you master this trick, you control the emotional pacing of the relationship. You give them a taste of what they want, whether it's your affection, your attention, or your energy, but never let them fully consume it. This keeps them in a constant state of longing, making each encounter feel more significant, more urgent. Each moment they spend with you becomes an experience they can't quite forget, because it always ends just before they've had their fill. The craving you leave behind is far more intense than any satisfaction they might have experienced. This sense of emotional hunger creates a magnetic pull as the other person starts to associate you with something elusive, something they must chase. Over time, they begin to shape their interactions around the promise of more, ever hopeful that the next moment with you will be the one where they finally get what they've been craving. By leaving them with this hunger, you make them return time and time again, trapped in a cycle of desire that you alone can control. Appeal to their primal desires. Primal desires are the foundation of human motivation, and by appealing to these basic instincts, you can tap into an uncontrollable, deeply ingrained part of someone's psyche. The primal urges, sexual attraction, power, survival, and the need for dominance are forces so powerful that they can easily override rational thought and logical decision-making. When you understand and exploit these desires, you create an emotional grip that is both irresistible and dangerous. To appeal to someone's primal desires is to make them feel a deep, visceral attraction to you that goes beyond words or logic. It's about tapping into their raw, unfiltered needs, often without them realizing it. You might use subtle body language that signals dominance, allure, and control, like leaning in just a bit too close, touching them at the right moment, or making them feel desired through your gaze. These small actions trigger an emotional response that bypasses the conscious mind and goes straight to the heart of their instinctual cravings. You can also play on their need for validation, making them feel that you are the key to fulfilling their most intense desires. By offering a taste of what they want, but never fully delivering, you create a hunger within them, a primal yearning that keeps them chasing you. The more you appeal to these core emotional needs, the more they will become emotionally dependent on you, believing that only you can satisfy what they truly crave. With each passing interaction, you tighten your grip, and they will be drawn deeper into the dark allure you've cultivated. Driven by desires they cannot ignore or control, draw them into your world without them realizing. The ability to draw someone into your world without them realizing it is a subtle yet devastatingly effective tactic in dark seduction. It's not about forcefully pulling someone into your life or trying to convince them to see things your way. It's about creating an invisible pull, an attraction so compelling that they unknowingly become part of your narrative, your reality. The beauty of this technique is in its smooth, almost imperceptible nature. It feels natural to them, as though they have chosen to step into your world willingly, but in truth, they've been led there every step of the way. The key to this approach is to offer pieces of your life, glimpses of your thoughts, your beliefs, your passions, just enough to intrigue them, to spark a curiosity that begins to grow. You allow them to experience parts of your world, but never the full picture. These fragments leave them wanting more, and over time, they begin to weave themselves into the narrative you've created, whether it's through shared interests, subtle suggestions, or revealing just enough about yourself to create emotional investment. You begin to build a bridge between their world and yours. At the same time, you maintain the illusion that they are the ones stepping forward, that they are the ones who have taken an interest. They are unaware that each small step they take is one you've already orchestrated. You engage them in ways that make them feel involved in your life, but they never realize that they are, in fact, being pulled deeper into your orbit. Slowly, without resistance, they become a part of your world, so entangled that they can no longer separate themselves from it, and by the time they realize, they'll be too emotionally invested to break free. Challenge their self-image. Challenging someone's self-image is a powerful and dangerous technique that strikes at the core of their identity, making them question their worth, abilities, and place in the world. People build their lives around a carefully constructed image of themselves, and when that image is questioned, especially by someone they admire or desire, it creates a deep psychological disturbance. By subtly undermining their self-esteem and challenging their confidence, you manipulate their perception of who they are, making them more vulnerable to your influence. This is not about outright insult, but about planting seeds of doubt and offering subtle criticism that makes them rethink everything they thought they knew about themselves. You can challenge their self-image in various ways, starting with small, seemingly innocent comments that highlight perceived flaws or weaknesses. For instance, you might praise their intelligence, but then make a casual remark that makes them question whether they're as sharp as they think. Or you could compliment their appearance while slipping in a comment about something they could improve. These remarks don't need to be overtly negative. The power lies in the gentle nudge that makes them internally question their value. This emotional turmoil triggers a desperate desire for reassurance, pushing them to seek your validation even more fervently. They become fixated on your approval, constantly trying to prove themselves worthy in your eyes. The more you challenge their self-image, the more they will crave your recognition and acceptance, making them easier to control, influence, and dominate. In their pursuit of your validation, they will be so emotionally invested that they lose sight of their own identity, leaving them at your mercy. Use the law of scarcity to make yourself valuable. The law of scarcity is one of the most powerful psychological principles in dark seduction. It operates on the simple idea that things become more desirable when they are perceived as rare or in limited supply. By making yourself scarce, whether emotionally, physically, or in terms of attention, you position yourself as a precious commodity, one that others feel compelled to pursue. The more you limit your availability, the more people will value your presence, obsess over the moments you do offer, and chase after you with a desperation they can't quite explain. When you master the law of scarcity, you don't flood someone with attention or time. Instead, you pull back, leaving them wanting more. This can be as simple as limiting your responses to texts or calls, showing up unpredictably, or offering affection only in brief, tantalizing doses. When you are not constantly accessible, your presence becomes a rare treasure, something they begin to crave with a fierce intensity. It creates a sense of urgency in their mind, making them feel as though they must seize every opportunity to connect with you before it slips away. Scarcity triggers a deep psychological need to attain what is difficult to obtain. It plays on the fear of loss, making people feel they might miss out on something unique and irreplaceable. The more you withhold, the more they will seek, and with each chase, their emotional investment grows. In the end, you have them exactly where you want them, constantly striving, constantly desiring, and completely hooked on the idea of having you. By simply being less available, you elevate your value beyond measure, turning your attention into a coveted prize. Distract them with your unpredictability. Unpredictability is a powerful weapon when used correctly, as it disorients and destabilizes the mind, forcing others to constantly recalibrate their understanding of you. By being erratic in your actions and behavior, you create a whirlwind of confusion that leaves the other person desperate to make sense of it. One moment, you might be warm and engaging, offering attention and affection, and the next, you withdraw completely, leaving them guessing about your intentions. This inconsistency breeds a sense of emotional tension that draws them in, as their mind races to anticipate what comes next. When you keep them on edge with your unpredictability, you ensure that their focus is always on you, unable to look away for fear of missing the next shift in your behavior. This constant state of flux makes them feel like they are walking on unstable ground, forever unsure of where they stand with you. The confusion you create becomes an emotional puzzle that they feel compelled to solve. The more unpredictable you are, the more they will find themselves caught in the chase, trying to understand your motives, your desires, and your next move. The beauty of this tactic lies in its ability to create a psychological roller coaster. People crave certainty, and by denying them that, you force them to become emotionally invested, not in you as a person, but in the game of trying to figure you out. They begin to seek the emotional highs you give them, only to fall into the lows of uncertainty. And with each unpredictable action, you gain more control over their thoughts, emotions, and attention, ensuring that they remain completely absorbed in you, desperate for clarity that will never come. Use reverse psychology. Reverse psychology is a masterstroke in the art of dark seduction, manipulating others by planting the seed of resistance, only to turn it into compliance. At its core, reverse psychology is about creating the illusion of choice while subtly guiding the person toward the outcome you desire. It's the art of saying one thing while meaning the complete opposite, knowing that their instinct will push them to do the very thing you've just discouraged. This technique is about working with their subconscious, exploiting their desire to assert their independence and challenge authority, while quietly steering them into the direction you want them to go. The beauty of reverse psychology is in its subtlety. When you tell someone you probably won't be able to do this, you're not really challenging their ability, but rather provoking their pride and need to prove you wrong. By denying them something or suggesting they can't have it, you ignite their desire to rebel against your statement. Their initial resistance is a perfect setup to get them to act in a way that ultimately benefits you. This creates a sense of emotional intrigue as they become invested in disproving your claim, all while fulfilling your hidden agenda. It's the psychological equivalent of setting a trap, but without ever making the victim feel trapped. They believe they are making their own decisions, yet they are moving exactly where you want them to. This technique is powerful because it makes them feel in control of the situation, even when they are unwittingly doing exactly what you want. It taps into their ego and compels them to act, often without even realizing they've been manipulated, leaving them hooked and emotionally entangled in your game. Confuse them by being inconsistent. Inconsistency is one of the most effective ways to unsettle someone's mind and control their emotions. By deliberately being unpredictable in your actions, words, or emotions, you create an environment of confusion that forces the other person to constantly reevaluate their understanding of you and the relationship. Humans thrive on predictability and consistency, and when they're denied this, it leaves them disoriented, emotionally off balance, and desperate for answers that never seem to come. Being inconsistent is all about offering a mixture of behaviors that don't align with each other. One moment you might be warm and engaging, showering them with attention and affection. The next, you withdraw completely, acting cold or distant. You could give them the impression that you're deeply interested, only to pull back and show indifference. These emotional swings create a sense of insecurity in the other person, making them question their worth and constantly wonder what your true feelings are. They become consumed with trying to figure out where they stand with you, unable to settle on any one interpretation of your actions. The power of inconsistency is in its ability to break down their emotional walls. As they begin to doubt the reality of your relationship, they are forced to seek clarity, to chase after you, and to make sense of the contradictions you present. They become emotionally dependent on you, not only for validation, but for an explanation of what is real. This keeps them hooked, constantly trying to decode your behavior, making them more malleable and easier to manipulate as their focus shifts entirely to you. Keep your emotions guarded. Keeping your emotions guarded is a dark seduction technique that manipulates the most intimate parts of a person's psyche. It involves creating an emotional barrier between yourself and others, never allowing them to fully see or understand the depth of your feelings. By withholding your true emotions, you create an air of mystery and control, making others desperately try to decipher you. The more you protect your inner world, the more they crave access to it, as humans have an innate desire to connect and understand those they perceive as emotionally inaccessible. When you keep your emotions guarded, you trigger a psychological challenge in the other person, the need to break through the walls you've built. They become obsessed with figuring you out, with gaining your trust and discovering what lies beneath the surface. The more you withhold, the stronger their desire grows. You turn yourself into a puzzle that they must solve, and in this quest, their emotional investment deepens. Every time they feel they are getting close to understanding you, you retreat, pulling away just enough to keep them off balance and searching for more. This emotional detachment also shifts the power dynamic. By withholding your emotions, you become the one in control of the relationship, dictating when and how much of yourself you reveal. It forces others to work harder for your affection or approval, placing you in a position of strength. The result is a constant cycle of attraction and frustration, where they are forever chasing something they can never fully attain, your true, unguarded self. Show subtle signs of dominance. Subtle dominance is a powerful and often overlooked tool in the dark art of seduction. It's not about being overt or aggressive, but about displaying a quiet, unshakable confidence that commands attention and respect. These small, almost imperceptible signs, how you carry yourself, the way you speak, the space you occupy, send a message that you are in control without ever having to say a word. When you subtly assert dominance, you make others aware of your presence, but never in a way that feels forced or threatening. Instead, it's a quiet power that draws them to you, making them feel the weight of your influence without them even realizing it. The first step in showing subtle dominance is in your body language. Stand tall, shoulders back, and head held high. Maintain a strong, steady posture that signals self-assurance without any signs of insecurity or hesitation. Your movements should be slow and purposeful, never rushed or erratic. Every gesture should communicate intention, whether it's how you reach for a drink or how you stand in a room. This controlled presence makes others take notice and, more importantly, makes them subconsciously align with you, recognizing your authority in the space. Your speech also plays a key role. Speak with calmness and clarity, making each word deliberate and measured. Avoid unnecessary fillers or nervous laughter. When you speak, people listen, not because you demand it, but because your words carry weight. It's about making them feel that your opinion is one worth hearing, that your approval is something they must earn. These subtle signs of dominance don't overwhelm. They simply shape the environment around you, making others feel both captivated and slightly subordinate. With each interaction, you reinforce your position at the top of the hierarchy without ever needing to claim it outright. Keep them on their toes with unpredictability. Unpredictability is a psychological weapon that throws people off balance, creating a sense of intrigue and tension that keeps them constantly guessing about your next move. When you keep someone on their toes, you make them feel as though they are walking on a tightrope, uncertain of when or where you might shift the dynamics. The power of unpredictability lies in its ability to destabilize their emotional state. One moment, you are warm and engaging, and the next, you are distant and elusive. This emotional whiplash keeps them hooked as their minds race to understand what's happening, why you're behaving the way you are, and what you might do next. Being unpredictable doesn't mean being erratic or chaotic. It's about maintaining control while introducing enough variance to make others feel uncertain. You create emotional highs and lows that keep them mentally engaged, creating an addictive sense of anticipation. Every interaction with you becomes a mental game where they can never fully predict how you'll react, what you'll say, or what energy you'll bring. This uncertainty makes them crave consistency from you, but that consistency is always just out of reach. When people cannot predict you, they start to invest more emotionally, trying harder to decode your behavior, to make sense of you. They begin to believe that if they can just figure you out, they'll gain some form of control over the situation. But you remain elusive, always keeping them in a state of tension, never letting them feel truly secure in their understanding of you. And in that chaos, they are drawn deeper into your world, forever chasing the answers that only you can provide. Use silence after making a strong statement. Silence strategically placed after a powerful statement can be one of the most intoxicating tools in the art of dark seduction. When you speak something bold, intense, or even controversial, and then follow it with a deliberate silence, you create an emotional void that pulls people into your orbit. It's the kind of silence that hangs in the air, heavy and charged, making the other person feel the weight of your words and leaving them unable to move forward until they respond to the tension you've created. This pause is not awkward. It's deliberate, calculated, and dripping with unspoken meaning. The silence acts as a psychological trigger, forcing the other person to process your words, to question them, and to evaluate their own emotional response. It magnifies the impact of what you've said, leaving them with no choice but to internalize your message. As they struggle to fill that gap, they start to seek your approval, looking for validation or an invitation to speak, to connect. But in the silence, you hold the power. They are drawn to you, waiting for you to decide when to break it. This technique plays on the human need for resolution and certainty. Silence creates discomfort, and that discomfort drives them to act, whether to answer your statement, to shift the conversation, or to seek your attention. By controlling the flow of conversation with silence, you become the one who dictates the emotional pace, pulling them deeper into a web of curiosity and desire. You force them to seek your guidance, your validation, and your emotional cues, forever leaving them at the mercy of your quiet, powerful presence. Flatter them only when necessary. Flattery is a tool often used in the art of seduction, but its true power lies not in excessive praise, but in its strategic, deliberate use. By offering compliments only when they are most needed, at the exact moment when the other person feels vulnerable or insecure, you create a psychological shift that makes them feel validated and desired. This makes your words feel far more impactful, as they are linked directly to their emotional state, amplifying the effect of your praise and ensuring that it lands with maximum intensity. The key to using flattery effectively is scarcity. If you dole out compliments too freely, they lose their power and become hollow. However, when you hold back, offering a rare, well-timed compliment, it feels like a precious gift that they must earn. This makes the flattery feel earned and meaningful rather than something casually given. You position yourself as someone who notices and appreciates the smallest of their qualities, but only when they have proven worthy of it. This tactic plays on the deep human need for validation, making the other person crave more of your approval. The moment you offer praise, they are hit with a surge of positive emotion, which in turn makes them want to stay in your favor. However, by withholding flattery most of the time, you keep them in a state of anticipation, always striving to be the person who earns your praise again. It is this cycle of scarcity and reward that creates an emotional dependence, making them crave your attention and approval while you remain the elusive source of their validation. Give them a taste of power, then take it away. The fleeting sensation of power is one of the most intoxicating experiences a person can have, and when you give someone a taste of it only to snatch it away, you weave a trap they'll constantly yearn to escape. This tactic works by exploiting the human desire for control and dominance. When you allow someone to feel a momentary surge of power, whether it's in a conversation, a situation, or a relationship, they are instantly hooked, believing that they are in charge. You let them believe that they hold the upper hand, only to quietly strip it away, leaving them in a state of confusion and longing. The beauty of this technique is in its psychological manipulation. By briefly giving them power, you make them feel seen, validated, and important. They become emotionally invested in maintaining that control, often believing they've earned it or that it's something they deserve. But just when they feel they have it firmly in their grasp, you take it away, pulling back, becoming distant, or even subtly reminding them of their place. This sudden loss of power creates a deep emotional void, one that leaves them scrambling to regain what they've lost. The effect is addictive. The power dynamic shifts constantly, and the person is left chasing after what they can never quite have. The emotional roller coaster makes them cling to you, desperate to feel that fleeting sense of dominance once again. They'll begin to seek your validation, trying harder to regain control, unaware that the more they chase, the deeper they fall into your grasp. You hold the power, and they are simply playing the game you've set for them, driven by their insatiable hunger for the power you dangle in front of them, only to pull it away again. Create an aura of exclusivity around yourself. Creating an aura of exclusivity is a potent seduction technique that manipulates desire by making others feel like they're gaining access to something rare and valuable, something that few others can attain. When you position yourself as someone who is difficult to access or whose attention is selectively given, you immediately elevate your value in the eyes of those around you. This sense of scarcity drives others to pursue you, to seek your approval, and to prove themselves worthy of your time and energy. To create this aura, you don't need to be overt. It's the subtle behaviors that communicate your limited availability. Perhaps not always responding to messages right away, being selective about where you invest your time, or showing disinterest in crowds while making the few who do gain your attention feel special. You may share personal moments, but only with those who have earned it, leaving others wondering what they're missing. This leaves them constantly chasing after the opportunity to get closer, always trying to prove themselves worthy of your rare, coveted attention. The allure of exclusivity works because humans are wired to want what they can't easily obtain. When you place yourself on a pedestal, acting as though your time, affection, and validation are things to be earned, you transform yourself into an unattainable prize. This constant pursuit leads to obsession. They become fixated on you, driven by the desire to gain access to something few others can, making them more emotionally invested and pliable to your influence. The more elusive you become, the stronger their desire for you grows, as they begin to feel that winning your approval is the ultimate reward. Use ambiguous compliments that make them unsure. Ambiguous compliments are a potent form of psychological manipulation that play on a person's insecurities and need for validation. By offering praise that is intentionally vague or contradictory, you create a sense of uncertainty, leaving the other person questioning both themselves and the sincerity of your words. Rather than offering clear, straightforward compliments, you make them wonder what you truly mean, which only heightens their emotional investment and makes them obsess over your intentions. For example, telling someone, "You're so interesting, it's hard to tell if you're serious or joking," can make them question their own behavior, unsure whether you find them intriguing or confusing. Or commenting, "I like how you dress," for someone who isn't trying too hard, adds a layer of ambiguity, mixing praise with a hint of critique. These compliments don't clearly fall into the category of praise, and that's the power they hold. They leave the person unsure of whether you're impressed, indifferent, or subtly critical. This ambiguity forces the other person to seek more of your validation, analyzing every interaction to decode your true feelings. Their mind becomes preoccupied with deciphering what you really think about them, turning something as simple as a compliment into a complex mental puzzle. They become addicted to this uncertainty, constantly trying to gain clarity while simultaneously becoming more dependent on your approval. The confusion keeps them emotionally tangled, making them more vulnerable to manipulation as they chase the elusive affirmation they so desperately need. Keep them emotionally charged. To keep someone emotionally charged is to maintain an environment of constant emotional intensity, where their feelings are always on the edge, fluctuating between highs and lows. This dark seduction technique is all about manipulating their emotional state, keeping them in a perpetual state of desire, longing, and uncertainty. By keeping the emotional temperature high, you ensure that they are never completely at ease, and their attachment to you only deepens as they become addicted to the emotional roller coaster you've created. You achieve this by using both emotional highs and lows, never allowing them to settle into comfort. One moment, you may shower them with attention, affection, and validation, making them feel special and wanted. The next, you withdraw, becoming distant, cold, or elusive. This unpredictable emotional ebb and flow creates a constant undercurrent of anxiety, as they never know where they stand with you. They become dependent on your emotional shifts, desperately seeking the next moment of warmth and affection that may or may not come. This technique plays on their need for validation and emotional security. When you keep them emotionally charged, you make them crave your approval and attention like a drug. Each emotional high feels more intense because they are constantly chasing the next one, while the lows make them feel as though they are emotionally off balance, leaving them hooked, always seeking more from you. By controlling their emotional state, you maintain power, and they are drawn back to you over and over again, emotionally entangled in the chaos you've created. Make them chase your attention like a prize. In the game of dark seduction, making someone chase your attention is one of the most powerful ways to manipulate their emotions and actions. Humans are wired to desire what they can't easily have, and by positioning your attention as something valuable and elusive, you create a sense of longing and hunger in the other person. They start to see your approval, your focus, as a prize, something they must work for, something that feels more rewarding the harder they have to strive for it. The trick is to withhold your attention just enough to keep them constantly yearning for more. One moment, you may give them a taste, giving them your full focus, your warmth, making them feel like they are at the center of your world. But the next, you pull back, becoming distant, cold, or absorbed in something else. This unpredictability in how you offer attention keeps them off balance, forcing them to constantly seek out your validation, your gaze, your words. As they begin to chase after your attention, they become emotionally invested in the chase itself. They start to view every interaction with you as an opportunity to win your favor, to prove their worth, and to gain something they've come to crave, your focus. This dynamic shifts the balance of power, placing you in the dominant position while they are left scrambling, emotionally dependent on your approval. The more you pull away, the more they crave you, and the more control you gain over their thoughts, actions, and desires, making your attention the most coveted prize they can never seem to fully attain. Use subtle manipulations of their feelings. Subtle emotional manipulation is a dark seduction tactic that works by gently steering someone's emotions in the direction you want, without them ever realizing they're being controlled. This technique is about planting small seeds of doubt, affection, or desire that grow over time, shaping their emotional landscape to serve your needs. By playing on their feelings with subtlety, you can make them feel a certain way without ever directly telling them how they should feel. It's an art of emotional suggestion, creating a psychological environment where their emotions are constantly being influenced, molded, and adjusted to align with your intentions. The beauty of this manipulation lies in its invisibility. You don't need to be overt in your actions. A slight change in tone, a well-timed compliment, or even a lingering silence can provoke powerful emotional responses. You can make them feel insecure with a small remark or fill them with pride by acknowledging something they've done without explicitly saying it's for your benefit. It's all about creating an emotional dance where they believe they are leading but are really following your cues. This subtle manipulation doesn't demand dramatic shifts in their feelings. Rather, it's the gradual shaping of their emotional state. You can play with their sense of self-worth, making them feel empowered one moment and unsure the next. You make them crave your validation, yet you withhold it just enough to keep them reaching, always wanting more. It's a psychological tug-of-war where they unknowingly invest more of themselves emotionally, driven by the need to satisfy the emotional void you've subtly created. In the end, their feelings belong to you, and they never realize they're merely dancing to your tune. Make them feel a deep emotional connection, then pull away. This is one of the most emotionally intense and manipulative tricks in dark seduction. The tactic revolves around creating moments of deep emotional intimacy and connection, only to withdraw just as they become emotionally vulnerable. It's a psychological dance of giving them exactly what they crave: affection, attention, understanding, only to snatch it away at the peak of their emotional investment. This oscillation between closeness and distance builds a powerful, addictive dynamic that keeps them constantly craving more. When you first make them feel that deep connection, you allow them to feel as if they've found someone who truly understands them, someone who can provide them with the emotional fulfillment they long for. You engage in deep, meaningful conversations, share personal details, and let them into your world, making them feel like they're special, that they are your confidant, the one you trust the most. This creates a powerful emotional bond where they start to feel secure in their place with you. But just as they begin to believe in this connection, you pull away. You become distant, less responsive, or emotionally unavailable. You stop sharing as much and make them work for your attention. This sudden withdrawal causes confusion, anxiety, and longing, and they begin to chase after you, desperate to regain the emotional closeness they once felt. The emotional highs and lows trigger a roller coaster of feelings, making them crave your validation and affection even more, unable to resist the pull of the emotional connection you briefly allowed them to feel. This push-pull dynamic hooks them deeper as they become increasingly obsessed with winning back what you've just taken away. Make them compete for your favor. Making someone compete for your favor is a dark seduction technique that taps into the primal human need for validation and recognition. By positioning yourself as a highly coveted prize, you create a dynamic where others must prove their worth, not just to you, but also to themselves. You subtly set the stage for competition, whether it's through attention, affection, or the approval you give so sparingly. This trick forces others to engage in a psychological race, constantly striving to outperform one another in the hope of earning your affection and validation. The power of this technique lies in how it fuels desire. When people feel as though they must compete for your favor, they become emotionally invested in winning. Each small victory, whether it's a compliment, a bit of attention, or a moment of intimacy, feels like a reward they've earned, making them crave more. The competition doesn't just make them seek your favor, it fuels their own need to be seen as the most worthy of your attention. This dynamic keeps them constantly striving to be better, to be the one you choose, all while you remain in control, deciding who earns your time and affection. On a deeper level, this tactic plays on insecurities, as the other person's sense of worth becomes linked to their ability to win your favor. They begin to compare themselves to others, wondering if they're good enough, and this only deepens their emotional attachment to you. By making them compete, you ensure that they invest more, emotionally and mentally, while you remain the central figure they both desire and struggle to claim. This manipulation of competition ultimately places you in the position of power, making them chase after you, desperate for validation, while you decide who is worthy of your attention. Maintain an enigmatic smile. An enigmatic smile is one of the most subtle yet profoundly seductive tools in the art of dark influence. It's not the broad, welcoming smile that signals warmth and friendliness. It's something far more complex and elusive. The enigmatic smile is reserved, almost secretive, leaving others wondering what lies behind it. It's a smile that teases, that suggests you know something they don't, pulling them into a world of uncertainty and curiosity. When you maintain this mysterious smile, it becomes a symbol of power and control. It's not about giving away your emotions or intentions, it's about withholding them, making others feel as though they are on the outside, looking in. This creates a magnetic pull where people are drawn to you, desperate to uncover the mystery behind the smile, to decipher what it means. The smile becomes a riddle, and the more they ponder its meaning, the more invested they become in you. This subtle expression of mystery plays on their natural desire to understand and connect. They may be left feeling slightly unsettled, unsure of how to interpret your demeanor, which sparks an emotional investment in trying to figure you out. They crave the answers that seem just out of reach, and the more they think about it, the more power you hold over their thoughts. The enigmatic smile leaves them in a perpetual state of longing, fascinated and hooked, wondering if they will ever truly unlock the enigma you've created. And all the while, you remain in control, knowing that with every glance, you've pulled them deeper into your world. Seduce them with your confidence and poise. Confidence and poise are the bedrock of dark seduction, quietly drawing others to you without a word, yet speaking volumes through your mere presence. When you walk into a room with calm assurance, you exude an energy that demands attention, not through brashness, but through sheer control over yourself and your environment. Confidence is magnetic, but poise, grace under pressure, takes it to a whole new level. It's the way you hold yourself, the stillness in your movements, and the unwavering certainty in your demeanor that draws people in, making them feel as though you are a force they must reckon with. This type of seduction isn't loud or flashy. It's subtle, smooth, and powerful. It's the ability to stand tall in any situation, to remain calm when others might panic, to speak with a quiet but unshakable authority. People are instinctively drawn to those who project control over themselves because it signals to their subconscious that you are someone who can be trusted, someone who is emotionally stable and capable of navigating the chaos of the world. When you move with poise, every gesture is deliberate, every action calculated to leave an impression. Your words are measured, not rushed, and your actions are never hasty. You don't need to command the room with volume or aggression. Your quiet confidence and perfect composure do all the work. This combination of control and calm not only attracts others, but it also makes them feel that they are in the presence of someone rare, someone who is untouchable in their elegance. They will feel compelled to be closer, to witness more of this mesmerizing aura you've mastered, unknowingly seduced by your composed strength. Leverage their weaknesses subtly. Leveraging someone's weaknesses is a dark and effective way to control their emotions and actions, yet it requires a delicate, almost invisible touch. It's not about exploiting their vulnerabilities in a direct or overt way. Rather, it's about gently pushing on the areas where they feel most insecure, creating a sense of dependency or doubt without them fully realizing it. This technique plays on their fears, insecurities, or unmet needs, subtly guiding them toward actions that align with your desires, all while making them believe they are in control. Start by observing their weaknesses, whether it's a need for validation, an area of self-doubt, or a desire for acceptance. Once you identify these emotional triggers, you can use them to your advantage by reinforcing those vulnerabilities at just the right moments. For instance, if someone seeks constant approval, you might withhold your praise occasionally, making them work harder for your recognition. Alternatively, if someone struggles with confidence, you might casually mention how much they could achieve if they only believed in themselves, prompting them to seek your validation more urgently. The power of this technique lies in its subtlety. You're not attacking their weaknesses head-on. You're simply planting ideas and thoughts that reinforce their deepest fears and desires. This makes them more emotionally reliant on you, constantly striving to meet your expectations or win your favor. As they seek to resolve their insecurities, they become more malleable, more willing to do what you want in the hopes of earning your approval or feeling that elusive sense of worth. You control the narrative, manipulating their emotional state, while they remain unaware of how deeply you've shaped their behavior. Hold back your true emotions. Holding back your true emotions is a subtle yet powerful technique in dark seduction. It involves creating an emotional barrier where you never fully reveal your inner feelings, thoughts, or desires. By keeping your true emotions hidden, you turn yourself into a mystery, an enigma that others feel compelled to unravel. People are naturally drawn to what they can't have, and when you withhold your emotional transparency, you create a void that others are eager to fill. They begin to obsess over what lies beneath the surface, questioning your feelings, intentions, and motivations. This emotional withholding forces others to engage with the version of you they can't fully understand. They feel as though they are constantly on the edge of something deeper, yet just out of reach. This creates a psychological tension where the other person becomes fixated on trying to decipher you. They want to be the one to unlock your emotional world, believing that if they can, they will gain something precious. This craving for access to your emotions puts them in a position of pursuit, and you hold all the power, deciding when, if ever, you choose to reveal yourself. By holding back, you manipulate their need for validation. They begin to measure their worth by how much they can get you to open up, turning the process of earning your trust and affection into a game. The longer you withhold your emotions, the more intense their desire to break through becomes. This constant uncertainty keeps them on edge, emotionally invested, and desperate for the connection they can never fully attain. You control the emotional pace, keeping them coming back for more, never quite satisfied, always craving the intimacy they can't grasp. Make them second-guess their decisions. The art of making someone second-guess their decisions is a psychological tactic that subtly erodes their sense of certainty and control. When you plant seeds of doubt in their mind, you trigger a mental and emotional turmoil that forces them to question their choices, actions, and even their feelings toward you. This uncertainty creates an addictive need for validation as they begin to seek your approval and guidance, unsure of what the right decision really is. The key is to introduce contradictions in a way that doesn't seem overt or malicious. It might be a small comment or a casual observation that challenges their assumptions, something that makes them pause and reconsider their previous conclusions. By subtly highlighting inconsistencies or pointing out flaws in their logic, you cast a shadow of doubt over their confidence, making them question whether they've made the right choices in regard to you, their relationship with you, or even their own personal beliefs. This tactic works because people crave certainty. When they feel unsure, they become vulnerable, and that vulnerability is where you can start to pull the strings. The more you cause them to second-guess themselves, the more they will look to you for reassurance, and with each instance, your influence over them grows. They will begin to seek your opinion, not just on matters related to you, but on aspects of their life where you've introduced doubt. This mental tug-of-war places you in a position of silent power, making them feel emotionally dependent on you and in constant need of your guidance and approval. Keep them feeling like they're constantly learning about you. The allure of mystery is intoxicating, and the more someone feels they're discovering layers of your persona, the deeper they'll fall into your web. By keeping them constantly learning about you, you turn every interaction into a mini revelation, a new chapter in the story they are desperate to unfold. The key to this technique is to offer just enough, never too much, to spark curiosity while withholding the full picture. Each time they think they've cracked the code of who you are, you shift the narrative just enough to leave them wanting more. You don't reveal all of yourself at once. Instead, you offer glimpses, moments that seem to hint at something deeper, more complex. Maybe it's a subtle change in tone when you speak about your past, a fleeting mention of a personal belief that sparks their interest, or a hint of an emotion that they can't quite place. Each moment is a breadcrumb that invites them to get closer, to dig deeper, but never quite allowing them to uncover everything. This process becomes addictive. The more they think they understand you, the more they realize there's something else, something they haven't figured out. They begin to dissect every word you say, every gesture, looking for clues to what lies beneath. With each new discovery, they feel a sense of ownership over you, as though they're one step closer to unraveling the mystery. But just when they think they know you, you pull back, leaving them at the edge of understanding, forever hungry to learn more. This constant sense of discovery keeps them emotionally and mentally hooked, invested in the chase, and ultimately under your control. Use vulnerability to create intimacy, then distance. This technique is a masterstroke in emotional manipulation, playing on the contrast between closeness and emotional withdrawal to keep someone hooked. The strategy involves revealing just enough of your vulnerability to allow the other person to feel a sense of emotional intimacy, only to abruptly pull back, leaving them craving more. The push and pull between openness and distance taps into a deep psychological need for connection, creating an emotional roller coaster that draws them in while keeping them off balance. When you first allow them to see your vulnerability, whether it's a personal story, a fear, or a moment of weakness, you trigger empathy and compassion, making them feel as though they've gained access to a deeper, more authentic part of you. This emotional closeness fosters a sense of connection and intimacy as they feel needed, trusted, and important. They begin to invest more emotionally, drawn by the perceived bond you've just created. But once they've emotionally opened up to you, you pull away. You become distant, less responsive, or more guarded, leaving them confused and anxious. The sudden change makes them wonder what went wrong, why you've closed off, and what they did to deserve the shift. In the absence of your emotional availability, they start to crave it, their desire to reconnect growing stronger as they search for ways to regain your trust or access your vulnerabilities once again. This emotional push and pull keeps them emotionally dependent, always wondering when they'll get the next taste of intimacy, and making them more willing to do whatever it takes to maintain the connection you've created. Control the mood with your energy. The ability to control the mood with your energy is a powerful yet subtle technique in dark seduction. It's not about what you say or do, but how you make others feel by manipulating the emotional atmosphere with your presence. Your energy, the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, even the way you breathe, shapes the emotional tone of every interaction. When you harness this ability, you control the room, and everyone in it becomes subject to your emotional influence. At its core, this technique is about setting the emotional temperature. If you want to draw someone in, you can radiate warmth, attentiveness, and interest. Your energy can be calm and soothing, making them feel safe, valued, and emotionally secure in your presence. Alternatively, you can shift your energy to something colder, more distant, creating tension and emotional discomfort that makes them want to earn your approval or chase after your attention. You control how they feel, which makes them more emotionally dependent on you. By fluctuating your energy, you create a sense of unpredictability. One moment you may be engaging and inviting, and the next you withdraw into an emotionally distant state. This shift keeps people on edge, constantly adjusting to your emotional rhythm. It plays with their desire for connection, as they crave the moments when your energy is warm, but are always unsure when that warmth will vanish. In this emotional push and pull, you maintain control, keeping them emotionally charged and completely fixated on you, forever trying to decode your energy, never fully sure of what to expect next. Seduce them through your words and tone. Words have an extraordinary power when used deliberately, and in the realm of dark seduction, how you speak can be as alluring as what you say. The key is in the tone, the rhythm, and the pacing, using language to create an emotional atmosphere that pulls the other person closer without them even realizing it. A slow, deliberate delivery of carefully chosen words can infuse the conversation with an intoxicating intensity, one that makes them feel as though every syllable carries weight, as if each word is an invitation to dive deeper into the emotional landscape you're crafting for them. When you speak, let your voice flow smoothly, each word measured, as though you're deliberately taking your time to draw them in. A soft, low tone can create a sense of intimacy, as though you are whispering secrets meant only for their ears. Alternately, a more confident, commanding tone can invoke a sense of authority, making them feel compelled to listen, to pay attention, to hang on every word. The variation in tone, how you shift from gentle warmth to a more serious or intense register, creates a psychological tension, forcing them to stay alert, to wonder what comes next. By choosing your words carefully, you can evoke emotions, desire, vulnerability, excitement, without ever being direct. You can suggest, imply, and tease, leaving them craving more of your verbal attention. The way you say things becomes a seductive dance, where every pause, every subtle inflection draws them further into your world. Through your words and tone, you become a magnetic force, pulling them toward you emotionally, making them feel connected to you in a way that transcends simple conversation. It's an intimate form of influence that leaves them hooked, unable to resist the pull of your voice. Always be a step ahead of their thoughts. To seduce someone with the power of anticipation is to play with their mind in ways they can't comprehend. When you are always one step ahead of their thoughts, you create an overwhelming sense of intrigue, making them feel as though they are constantly playing catch-up in your presence. This is a seductive dance where every word you say, every glance you offer, and every action you take feels like a deliberate move designed to draw them deeper into your psychological web. The key is to understand not only what they are thinking, but what they will think next, before they do. When you anticipate their needs, desires, or even insecurities before they have a chance to voice them, you leave them in awe of how well you understand them. It's as if you have access to their innermost thoughts, and that connection becomes incredibly powerful. You make them feel seen and understood, but in a way that feels almost supernatural. By staying ahead, you create a sense of urgency in them, a need to keep up with your pace, to figure you out, to understand what you're going to do next. This psychological manipulation forces them into a position of emotional dependency. As you continually outmaneuver their expectations, they become captivated by your ability to stay one step ahead, unable to predict your next move. The more they try to guess, the more you remain a mystery, always leaving them just a little behind, perpetually intrigued by the puzzle you present. They'll crave your presence because being with you means they are constantly engaged, always mentally stimulated, and forever trying to solve the enigma that is you. Let them experience moments of doubt. Allowing someone to experience moments of doubt is a subtle but profoundly effective way to manipulate their emotions and make them more susceptible to your influence. Doubt is an insidious feeling. It undermines confidence, erodes security, and creates a sense of vulnerability that makes people eager to seek reassurance and validation. By introducing small, calculated doses of doubt into their mind, you disrupt their sense of certainty, forcing them to second-guess their perceptions, decisions, and even their worth. The beauty of this tactic is that it doesn't require overt negativity or criticism. Instead, it's about introducing ambiguity, being inconsistent with your behavior, or leaving gaps in communication that they can't quite fill. For example, you might praise them one moment, then act indifferent or critical the next. You might say one thing but do another, making them question your true intentions. By shifting the emotional tone unexpectedly, you make them unsure of where they stand with you, which heightens their anxiety and creates a constant need for validation. As doubt creeps into their thoughts, they begin to question their own judgments, becoming more emotionally dependent on you to clear the confusion. They start to seek your approval more desperately, trying to decode your actions and decipher your true feelings. This doubt becomes a psychological weight, driving them to perform, to please, and to try harder to win your favor. Over time, they become so fixated on resolving their uncertainty that they lose their own sense of stability, giving you power over their emotions and actions without them even realizing it. Show them what they're missing by pulling back. One of the most potent dark seduction techniques is showing someone what they're missing by pulling back just when they've become emotionally invested. At its core, this tactic plays on the intense psychological reaction of desire and loss. When you allow someone to experience the taste of your attention, affection, or intimacy only to suddenly withdraw, you create a void, a space where their mind races to fill in the gaps. It's a masterful way to make them realize the depth of what they've lost, and it forces them to recognize just how much they need you. The power of this technique lies in its timing and precision. You give them moments of connection, of warmth, of closeness, making them feel seen and valued. But then, without warning, you pull back. You become emotionally distant, harder to reach, or more unavailable. This sudden change in behavior creates an emotional shock, leaving them desperate to regain what they had with you. The mind works in mysterious ways, and when something is taken away, something they had begun to take for granted, the desire to reclaim it skyrockets. Pulling back makes them focus on the absence of you, on what you brought to their life that they now feel they can't have. It's a psychological game of longing, where they become fixated on proving they deserve your attention, affection, or love. They will seek to fill the void you've created, trying to regain what they once had. By showing them what they're missing, you make them emotionally invested in the chase, placing yourself in a position of power where you decide when to give and when to withdraw. This technique turns you into the emotional prize they desperately seek, and they will return over and over again, chasing the connection you made them crave. Stay mysterious by revealing only fragments of yourself. In the world of dark seduction, the less you reveal, the more people become drawn to you. By staying mysterious, you keep others constantly guessing, making them feel as though they are always on the edge of discovering something deeper about you. The key is in revealing only small, carefully chosen fragments of your personality, your past, and your desires. These glimpses into your world are like pieces of a puzzle that never quite fit together, leaving the other person to search for answers that may never come. Each time you share a little bit of yourself, perhaps a personal anecdote, a fleeting emotion, or an unexpected opinion, you pull them in, creating the illusion that they are uncovering the real you. But just as they feel like they are getting closer to understanding you, you withhold more, shifting the focus back onto them or changing the subject entirely. This pattern keeps them intrigued, fascinated by what they think they might know, yet never fully satisfied. It's the allure of the unknown that keeps them emotionally invested, craving more of what you refuse to give. The fragments you do reveal should never be too complete, but just enough to create a sense of intimacy. These bits of information allow them to feel special, as though they're being let into a secret part of your world. But because there's always more left unsaid, they're left with a hunger, a desire to know you fully, to unravel the mystery that surrounds you. And with every unspoken detail, you gain more power, manipulating their curiosity and emotions, keeping them hooked in the magnetic pull of your enigmatic presence. Make them feel as if they need you. The most powerful form of dark seduction is not about pushing others into submission, but about making them feel that they cannot exist without you. This subtle manipulation taps into a deep emotional dependency, where the other person begins to perceive you as an irreplaceable part of their life, something essential to their happiness, their sense of self, or their emotional stability. You don't demand their attention, you cultivate it, making them believe that they need you in ways they might not even understand. The trick here is to become indispensable, but in ways they may not recognize immediately. Offer support when they're feeling vulnerable, make them feel seen and understood when others might overlook them, and provide an emotional anchor when the world around them feels uncertain. Gradually, they will start to associate their moments of peace, joy, or comfort with you. They begin to rely on your presence, not because they consciously realize it, but because you've subtly woven yourself into the fabric of their emotional world. You feed into their fears and desires without them realizing. You create emotional moments that make them feel lighter, more alive, and deeply connected to you. And over time, that connection turns into an emotional need. They'll find themselves seeking your approval, craving your validation, and relying on your presence as a source of comfort and confidence. The more you become a part of their emotional ecosystem, the more they will feel that without you, something will be missing, something crucial that they can't afford to live without. This need becomes a silent tether, binding them to you, forever drawn to your power and helpless in their desire to hold on to it. Cultivate an air of effortless coolness. Effortless coolness is one of the most captivating qualities you can project, and when harnessed strategically, it becomes a tool for psychological domination. It's about giving the impression that you are completely self-assured, relaxed, and unaffected by external influences, making you seem unattainable and highly desirable. The allure of this technique lies in the subtle message it sends, that you are someone who doesn't need to try to be impressive or attractive, because you simply are. This creates an aura of mystery and exclusivity, making others desperately want to be a part of your world. To cultivate this air of coolness, you must master emotional control. You stay calm, composed, and collected, regardless of the situation, giving the impression that nothing phases you. In social settings, you speak with confidence, but without the need to dominate the conversation. You respond thoughtfully, but never excessively, making your words seem more valuable because they are rare. Your body language should mirror this relaxed, confident demeanor, standing tall but not rigid, moving with purpose but never hurried. When others look to you for validation, you remain detached, not desperate for approval, but confident in your own worth. This indifference to external validation creates a magnetic pull. People are naturally drawn to those who appear to have everything under control, and by not seeming overly eager for attention or affection, you make others chase after your approval. They start to crave the access to your exclusive world, desperate to earn a place in it. This effortless coolness makes you the center of attention without even trying, and it keeps others emotionally invested, always wanting what they believe they can't easily attain. Make them feel that you are above the mundane. One of the most effective dark seduction techniques is making someone feel that you are above the mundane, an elusive figure who transcends the ordinary, making you a prize they must strive to attain. This is done by presenting yourself as someone with higher standards, a more refined existence, or a sense of purpose that others can't quite touch. When you project this aura of being above the everyday, you create a powerful psychological divide between you and the people around you. They begin to see you as someone rare, someone they can't just have or understand, someone who exists on a plane far above their reach. This technique works because people are inherently drawn to what they cannot easily possess. When you make yourself appear detached from the trivialities and distractions of ordinary life, you inspire admiration and longing. You might subtly hint at your unique interests, accomplishments, or experiences that set you apart from others. You don't engage in the petty dramas or daily struggles that most people are consumed with. Instead, you position yourself as someone who rises above all that, a person of mystery, sophistication, and purpose. By maintaining a sense of superiority, you naturally create a gap between yourself and the others. They start to view you as someone to be revered, someone whose attention and approval must be earned. This sense of unattainability builds attraction because they want to be part of the rarefied world you inhabit, and they feel that in order to gain your attention, they must prove themselves worthy. In doing so, you create an emotional dynamic where they constantly seek to rise to your level, making their desire for you grow stronger with each passing interaction. You hold the key to their admiration, making them chase you, longing to be included in your world that is far above the mundane. Create longing by being a scarce commodity. The concept of scarcity is a powerful psychological force in seduction, and by positioning yourself as a rare and elusive presence, you trigger an intense yearning in others. When you become something that is not easily accessible, when your time and attention are seen as limited, you elevate your value in their eyes. People naturally desire what is hard to get, and by being selective about when and how you give yourself to them, You create an emotional tension that compels them to chase after you, craving the attention and connection they can't seem to fully attain. The power lies in your absence. When you deliberately withdraw, when you make yourself unavailable, it causes the other person to desire you even more. Each moment you pull away, you heighten their longing, making them see you as something special, something worth pursuing. You don't need to give them your presence all the time. In fact, the less you offer, the more they will crave it. By limiting your availability and attention, you force them into a state of emotional longing, always hoping for the next moment they can capture your focus, your gaze, or your words. When you do appear, it should be with purpose, a carefully timed re-emergence that satisfies their craving just enough to leave them wanting more. Your value increases exponentially when you are not always within reach, when your attention is a rare and coveted prize. The more scarce you become, the more intensely they will chase after you, and in that chase, you become the object of their desire, the unattainable treasure they can't quite grasp. Play on their need for validation. Humans are inherently driven by the need for validation, this deep desire to be seen, appreciated, and acknowledged. Dark seduction thrives on this need, subtly manipulating it to gain control and influence over someone's emotions. When you play on their need for validation, you tap into a psychological weakness, the hunger for approval. You don't just give it to them freely. Instead, you make it scarce, valuable, and something they must strive for. The more they seek your praise, the more power you gain over them. By offering selective validation, you make them feel that their worth is tied to your recognition, creating an emotional dependency. You compliment them when they least expect it, sparking a moment of emotional high, and then you withhold your approval at other times, forcing them to work for it. This intermittent reinforcement drives their desire to please you, to constantly seek your acknowledgement, to prove themselves worthy of your attention. The more you validate them in small doses, the more their self-esteem becomes intertwined with your approval, leaving them emotionally dependent on you. As you subtly acknowledge their achievements, their qualities, and their desires, they begin to view you as the source of their emotional satisfaction. But it's never a constant stream of praise. It's timed just right, when they need it the most, but never too much, so they are always hungry for more. This psychological dance keeps them emotionally invested, always striving to win your favor, making them feel powerful and important, but only through your validation. And in that need for your approval, you hold the strings, pulling them closer to you with every compliment, every gesture of recognition. Draw them in with your complex personality. A complex personality is like an intricate puzzle, mysterious, layered, and endlessly intriguing. When you cultivate this depth, you create an irresistible aura that makes others want to learn more, to peel back the layers and discover what makes you tick. The beauty of a complex personality lies in its contradictions. You're not easily defined, and that uncertainty sparks curiosity in others, drawing them into a web of fascination and desire. People are naturally attracted to what they can't easily figure out, and by embracing your multifaceted nature, you turn yourself into a challenge they feel compelled to solve. To draw them in with your complexity, you mix a variety of traits: intellect, humor, passion, mystery, and vulnerability that make you seem unpredictable yet authentic. You may be witty and sharp one moment, introspective and thoughtful the next, or even quiet and enigmatic at times. You don't present yourself as one-dimensional. Instead, you offer glimpses into different aspects of your personality, keeping others guessing about which side of you they'll see next. This unpredictability keeps their attention focused on you as they try to decode your behaviors and understand what drives you. The key to this technique is balance. You reveal just enough to keep them intrigued, but never so much that they can fully grasp who you are. By creating a sense of intellectual and emotional complexity, you make them feel like they've stumbled upon something rare, something worth pursuing. They become emotionally invested in uncovering your depths, and in the process, they become increasingly dependent on your presence and approval. The more layers you reveal, the deeper their obsession grows, unable to look away from the mystery that is you. Use controlled disinterest to entice curiosity. Controlled disinterest is a powerful technique in dark seduction that plays on the human desire for validation and the fear of being ignored. By feigning indifference or emotional detachment, you create a magnetic pull of curiosity in others. The core of this tactic is to appear uninterested or unaffected by someone, even when you are, in fact, paying close attention. This subtle form of emotional withdrawal makes the other person work harder for your attention, increasing their desire to know what lies beneath your cool exterior. When you use controlled disinterest, you withhold your emotions and attention just enough to make others feel like they are missing out on something. You don't give them all of you, leaving them wondering why you're not as engaged as they expect you to be. This creates an emotional push-pull where they start to feel compelled to earn your affection or attention. The more you withhold, the more they question why you're not responding in the way they'd hoped, which only heightens their curiosity about you. The brilliance of this technique lies in its ability to make others feel uncertain. They begin to question themselves. Why aren't they interested in me? Or, what's so special about them that I can't seem to figure out? This uncertainty pushes them to seek answers, to prove their worth, and to unravel the mystery of your disinterest. By remaining emotionally aloof and only offering selective moments of engagement, you create an environment where the chase becomes an obsession, and they will go to great lengths to earn your attention, all while you remain in control. Seduce through actions, not words. Words can be powerful, but actions speak louder, especially when it comes to dark seduction. When you seduce through actions, you create a deeper, more visceral connection, one that bypasses the surface-level chatter and strikes straight at the heart of emotional and physical desire. Actions carry weight, they have substance, and they leave lasting impressions far beyond what mere words can convey. Every gesture, every move you make becomes a form of communication, one that speaks directly to the other person's subconscious mind. It's in the way you touch them, perhaps a light brush of your hand against theirs, or how you lean in just a little closer during a conversation, creating an almost electric tension. Your body language tells them that you're interested, that you're engaged, that you see them, without ever needing to utter a single word. The beauty of this technique is in the unpredictability and intensity of your actions. You don't need to promise anything, don't need to say anything grand. It's about the small, calculated moves, holding their gaze a moment longer than usual, offering a helping hand when it's least expected, offering your presence in a way that makes them feel as though you are fully aware of their every need and desire. This approach places you in the role of the silent controller, creating a sense of intimacy through what you do, not what you say. Each deliberate action you take subtly increases their emotional investment, drawing them into a web they can't quite see but can feel with every move you make. And as they become more immersed in your presence, they begin to associate the feelings you've stirred in them with the experience of being around you, making your actions the most seductive force in their world. Be the center of attention, but without trying. The art of becoming the center of attention without overtly seeking it is one of the most powerful techniques in dark seduction. It's about embodying an energy, a presence that naturally draws others in without the need for flashy gestures or desperate attempts to be noticed. You don't need to speak louder, act bolder, or demand admiration. Instead, you effortlessly command the spotlight by simply being yourself in a way that is intriguing and magnetic. It's the subtle power of self-assuredness that captivates. When you are genuinely confident in who you are without needing external validation, people are drawn to you like moths to a flame. There's a quiet allure in your presence, an energy that doesn't have to shout to be felt. You move with purpose, you speak with poise, and you hold an air of mystery that naturally attracts attention. People can't help but gravitate toward you, wondering what makes you so captivating, what secret you possess that they don't. By simply existing in a space with confidence, you become the gravitational force around which others orbit. You don't seek the attention, you let it come to you naturally. Your demeanor, your body language, the way you carry yourself, all of it combines to create an aura that demands attention without effort. This makes others feel the need to be near you, to be part of your world, because your unspoken magnetism makes you seem rare and desirable. And as they gravitate toward you, you remain effortlessly in control, the center of their universe without ever having to try. Master the art of selective vulnerability. Selective vulnerability is a sophisticated and subtle manipulation technique that involves revealing just enough of your weaknesses to foster emotional connection while keeping the most sensitive parts of yourself hidden. The beauty of this technique is in its balance. By carefully choosing when and what to reveal, you can create an aura of intimacy and trust without ever fully exposing yourself. When you share moments of vulnerability, it makes others feel as though they are gaining access to your inner world, which can trigger empathy, affection, and a deep desire to protect you. But because you only reveal fragments, it also creates a sense of mystery, leaving them craving more. The power of selective vulnerability lies in timing and control. You may choose to share a personal story or a fleeting moment of emotional rawness, but always pull back before it becomes too much. For example, you might briefly hint at a past hardship or share a fleeting feeling of insecurity, allowing the other person to step in with reassurance or support. This creates a bond as they feel needed or trusted. However, just as they begin to get closer, you withdraw emotionally, shifting the conversation or redirecting your energy. By controlling what others see and how much they know about your vulnerabilities, you make them feel like they are part of an exclusive circle with access to the real you. They become invested in understanding you, offering their empathy, and trying to uncover more. But you hold the power, because the more they seek, the more they become emotionally entangled, dependent on the fleeting glimpses you give them of your true self. This creates an addictive emotional dynamic where they are always trying to get closer, yet always kept at arm's length, hungry for the intimacy that you carefully control. Use small, intentional gestures to communicate desire. Small, intentional gestures are an incredibly subtle, yet powerful way to communicate desire without ever saying a word. In dark seduction, it's the little things that leave the most lasting impression, those fleeting moments that, when done with purpose, create a deep emotional impact. These gestures, though seemingly insignificant, have the power to send powerful messages, drawing others into your orbit without them even realizing it. A touch of the hand, a lingering look, a soft smile at the right moment, all of these seemingly innocent actions speak volumes about your intentions and your level of interest. The brilliance of this technique lies in its subtlety. You don't need grand declarations or overt gestures to signal attraction. Instead, it's the quiet, almost imperceptible moments that carry the most weight. When you brush your fingers against their arm as you pass by, or lean in just slightly closer than necessary when speaking, you create an emotional connection that feels intimate and exclusive. These small acts are charged with intent, and they draw the other person's attention to you in ways they can't ignore. These gestures make them feel seen, desired, and special. At the same time, you maintain control, never giving too much, always leaving them wanting more. The power of these small acts lies in the tension they create, teasing the mind, igniting curiosity, and sparking a longing for something deeper. The more intentional you are with these gestures, the more they are drawn to you, unable to fully understand why they feel so magnetically attached. These tiny, well-placed actions leave them questioning your feelings, all while you remain the one holding the emotional reins. Create a sense of urgency in your interactions. Urgency is one of the most potent psychological tactics in dark seduction because it taps into the primal human fear of missing out and the deep need to seize an opportunity before it slips away. By creating a sense of urgency, you make every moment with you feel fleeting, as though time is running out and every second is precious. This emotional pressure pushes the other person into action, making them crave your attention and approval with an intensity that borders on desperation. You can weave urgency into your interactions by being selective with your time and attention, giving just enough to keep them hooked but never fully satisfying their need. When you are present, be fully engaged, making them feel that this moment with you is significant. Then, just as they begin to feel comfortable, pull away, become distant, busier, or unavailable. This sudden shift triggers an internal alarm, making them wonder why you're no longer paying attention, what they did wrong, or how they can get your focus back. By creating this emotional tension, you make them chase your approval, your time, and your presence, all the while feeling the pressure of time running out. It's a delicate balance. If you're too distant for too long, they may lose interest, but if you are available just enough, their desperation will grow. They begin to feel a burning need to be close to you, to secure more of your attention before it vanishes, creating an addictive cycle where the urgency you've planted makes them emotionally dependent on your every move. With each interaction, you increase their attachment, knowing that the more they feel they must act quickly, the more they will strive to please you, putting them completely under your control. Let your actions speak louder than words. In the realm of dark seduction, words are often mere noise, while actions hold the true power to captivate and dominate. When you let your actions speak louder than your words, you bypass the need for overt promises or declarations, and instead, you create an undeniable impression through the way you behave. This technique operates on the principle that people are more deeply impacted by what you do, not what you say. Your every movement, gesture, and choice will convey your intentions more clearly and more powerfully than any words could. Actions carry weight. They reveal your true character, your desires, and your level of control. By consistently backing up your words with meaningful actions, you create a level of trust and respect that words alone could never establish. You show rather than tell, demonstrating through behavior that you are dependable, confident, and unwavering in your pursuit. Whether it's a small act of kindness, an unexpected gesture, or a deliberate move that conveys power and dominance, your actions leave a lasting impact. They speak to the subconscious in ways that words cannot, bypassing logic and tapping directly into emotion. When you let your actions take the lead, you become someone who is not just heard, but felt. People will gravitate toward you, not because you are constantly talking about who you are or what you can do, but because you have already shown them through your behavior. Every move you make becomes a message, a declaration of who you are and what you want, making it impossible for others to ignore or resist. They don't need to be told. They feel it in the way you act, and that feeling stays with them long after the words have faded. Make them feel that being with you is a privilege. The art of making someone feel that being with you is a privilege is about creating a sense of exclusivity and worth around your presence. People are naturally drawn to what they perceive as rare or special, and when you position yourself as someone who cannot be easily attained, you heighten your allure. It's about making them believe that the time, attention, and affection you give them are not things that everyone gets to experience, only those who truly deserve it. This subtle shift in perception places you in a position of power, as they begin to see being with you as something to be earned, not just given. To achieve this, you must carefully manage your availability and emotional investment. You don't make yourself too accessible, and when you do give your time or energy, it feels like a gift, one that they should cherish. You set boundaries that reinforce your value, whether it's in how you communicate, how often you engage, or how much you reveal about yourself. When they seek your approval, your attention, or your affection, you make them work for it, making sure they understand that it's not just a right, it's a privilege they have to earn. By withholding validation and affection at just the right moments, you make the moments when you do give them all the more powerful. You subtly remind them through your actions and your words that your presence is not something they can take for granted. As a result, they begin to view every interaction with you as something rare, something that others might desire but can't have. The feeling of being in your orbit becomes something to be coveted, and they will work harder, chase more fiercely, and emotionally invest deeper in the hopes of maintaining the privilege of being close to you. Develop a mysterious aura that others can't decode. Creating a mysterious aura is one of the most potent dark seduction techniques, as it taps into the primal human need to solve puzzles and uncover hidden truths. When you develop a mysterious presence, you become an enigma, a figure that others can't quite understand, no matter how much they try. The more elusive you are, the more others will be drawn to uncover what lies beneath the surface. You don't need to be overt or theatrical. Instead, it's about cultivating an aura that keeps people guessing and craving to know more about you, while never fully revealing your true self. The key to this technique lies in what you choose to reveal and what you withhold. You share enough to intrigue, but not enough to give away your full essence. Your conversations may be filled with ambiguity, leaving gaps that the other person will naturally try to fill. You might share small pieces of your life, but keep certain details just out of reach. This selective sharing leaves others yearning to uncover the rest of your story, to understand your thoughts, desires, and motives, all of which remain just beyond their grasp. Your actions also contribute to this mysterious aura. You move with intention, never rushing, always calculated in how you engage with others. Your body language is confident, but not overly expressive. Your gaze is deep, but never fully revealing. This controlled balance of openness and guardedness creates a psychological tension, making others constantly wonder what you're really thinking and feeling. The more they try to decode you, the more deeply invested they become, and the more power you hold. They are forever chasing something they can't catch, which keeps them emotionally hooked and obsessed with unraveling the mystery that is you. Make them doubt their understanding of you. Doubt is a powerful emotional tool when wielded with precision, and making someone question their understanding of you creates a subtle yet intense psychological grip. By keeping them unsure of who you truly are, you induce a state of confusion that keeps their mind spinning, constantly seeking answers and attempting to decipher your true intentions. The more they try to categorize you, the more you resist being pinned down, which only deepens their intrigue and emotional investment. This tactic begins with small contradictions in your behavior, words, and actions. One moment you might appear warm and inviting, offering a glimpse into your vulnerability, and the next you withdraw, becoming cold or aloof. You offer just enough of yourself to give the illusion of intimacy, then pull back, making them feel as though they are forever just out of reach of truly understanding you. This inconsistency forces them to constantly second-guess their perceptions and assumptions about you, leaving them feeling emotionally unsettled. When they start to doubt their understanding of you, they will become obsessed with figuring you out. They'll look for patterns in your behavior, overanalyzing every conversation, every gesture, trying to make sense of your mixed signals. This mental effort traps them in a loop, keeping them emotionally hooked and mentally engaged with you. The uncertainty you create makes them feel as though they are missing something crucial, fueling their desire to know more, to be closer to you, and to eventually crack the code of your mysterious persona. And the more they doubt, the more you control their thoughts, subtly shifting their perception of you to fit your own narrative. Leave an air of tension by not resolving conflicts. One of the most powerful tools in dark seduction is the art of creating unresolved tension. When you deliberately allow conflict or discomfort to linger, you ignite an emotional intensity that others cannot easily shake. Instead of smoothing over disagreements or clearing up misunderstandings, you allow them to hang in the air, unresolved and simmering. This unspoken tension pulls people in, keeping them emotionally invested in finding a resolution, but always at arm's length from achieving it. By leaving conflicts unresolved, you keep the emotional stakes high. People naturally seek closure, and when you withhold it, you force them into a constant state of anticipation, creating a psychological push and pull. The tension becomes addictive. Their minds are consumed with thoughts of you, trying to figure out what you really think, what you really want. They feel emotionally unsettled, but the more they try to resolve it, the deeper they fall into the web you've spun. This technique taps into the human need for certainty. By denying it, you make them crave it, and in doing so, you gain control. The more they chase resolution, the more emotionally invested they become in you, in your behavior, in your presence. They can't stop thinking about the tension you've created, and that emotional preoccupation leads them to seek you out again and again, hoping for clarity that you may never offer. The unresolved conflict keeps them guessing, keeps them yearning, keeps them hooked. And in that space of uncertainty, you hold all the power. Use their fantasies to control their thoughts. Using someone's fantasies to control their thoughts is a deeply psychological tactic that taps into their most private desires and wishes, steering their emotions and actions by planting seeds of temptation in their mind. People's fantasies are often powerful, uncontrollable, and intensely personal. And when you learn how to subtly weave these fantasies into your interactions, you gain the ability to shape their desires, making them think of you constantly. The beauty of this technique is that it doesn't require force. It's all about guiding their imagination and making them associate you with the fulfillment of their deepest, often hidden yearnings. To harness the power of their fantasies, you must first pay close attention to what excites them, what they crave, and what they may not even realize they want. Through subtle conversation, body language, and suggestive remarks, you introduce elements of their fantasies into the interaction, making them feel understood, desired, and emotionally hooked. You may not directly fulfill these fantasies, but by alluding to them through a look, a word, or a subtle action, you begin to live in their mind as the embodiment of what they crave. By slowly becoming a part of their internal narrative, you create a mental connection that is hard to break. They start to fantasize about you, playing out scenarios where they experience the emotions or desires they've secretly longed for. The more you trigger these fantasies, the more you draw them in, keeping them obsessed with the idea of you and what you represent in their mind. Their thoughts become dominated by the image you've carefully crafted, making them more vulnerable to your influence and more likely to act on their desires, all while believing that they are in control of their emotions. In reality, you've become the architect of their every thought. Create moments of intense emotional connection. Creating moments of intense emotional connection is a dark seduction technique that makes someone feel as though they've experienced something deeply profound with you, leaving them craving more. These moments don't happen by chance. They're strategically cultivated through carefully timed vulnerability, shared experiences, and emotional openness. The beauty of this technique is that when done right, It leaves the other person feeling as though they've shared something intimate and irreplaceable with you, a bond that feels unique and intense. To create these moments, you must first learn how to engage someone on a deeper emotional level. This involves opening up just enough of yourself to allow them to see your vulnerability or your passion without revealing too much. You might share a deeply personal story or reveal a desire or fear that's rarely spoken about. But as you share, you maintain control, allowing just enough emotional exposure to make them feel like they've entered your inner world while always leaving a sense of mystery. As the other person feels your vulnerability, they begin to mirror those emotions, creating a bond that feels stronger with every exchange. The key is in the timing and how you make them feel in that moment. You don't rush it. You make the experience feel as if they're walking through an emotional doorway, one that leads them to a deeper connection with you. These moments of emotional intimacy can happen through a long, lingering gaze, a simple touch, or a well-placed word that hits them at their core. Each time you create these experiences, they become more emotionally attached to you, forever chasing that intense, powerful connection that only you can provide. Keep them emotionally on edge by being unpredictable. Unpredictability is an emotional weapon that can keep someone hooked, fascinated, and desperate to figure you out. By introducing unexpected shifts in your behavior, reactions, and attention, you create a constant state of uncertainty that keeps the other person emotionally unbalanced and always guessing what comes next. When someone can't predict your actions or responses, they are forced to pay closer attention, becoming more emotionally invested in every interaction, trying to decipher your next move. The key to this tactic is in the subtlety and timing of your unpredictability. One moment, you may be warm, engaging, and emotionally available, offering a sense of connection and intimacy. The next moment, without warning, you pull back, becoming distant, cold, or absorbed in something else. These emotional swings are jarring and disorienting, triggering a heightened emotional response from the other person. The more unpredictable you are, the more they will crave consistency, desperately wanting to understand your mood, your desires, and where they stand with you. This emotional roller coaster makes them feel unstable, always trying to recalibrate their expectations and actions based on your behavior. With each emotional high, they feel connected to you, but when the low comes, they're left questioning what went wrong, why you've pulled away, and how they can regain your attention. This uncertainty creates an addictive tension as they begin to rely on your unpredictable presence to feel any kind of emotional satisfaction, making them more dependent on you to fill the gaps of confusion and longing you've deliberately created. In this constant cycle of emotional highs and lows, you maintain control over their psyche, leaving them in a state of craving, always unsure of when your next shift will come. Master the art of anticipation. Anticipation is a seductive force that works its magic by keeping others on edge, hungry for what's coming next. It's not about giving someone everything they want at once. It's about drawing them in with the promise of something more, something they can almost touch, but not quite grasp. When you master the art of anticipation, you create an emotional craving that keeps people mentally and emotionally invested in you, constantly yearning for the next moment, the next interaction, the next piece of you. This technique works by carefully controlling the timing and delivery of your attention, affection, and intentions. You don't give them everything they want immediately. Instead, you withhold just enough to keep them guessing. A well-timed compliment, a fleeting glance, a slight touch. These small gestures leave them craving more, wondering when the next spark will happen. Each moment you create is a taste, a hint, a promise of something greater, but you never give them the full experience right away. The beauty of anticipation is that it creates an emotional and mental investment, one where the waiting becomes as much a part of the attraction as the eventual fulfillment. The person is drawn to you not just because of who you are, but because of what they imagine you to be, what they expect from you. The longer they wait, the more they will desire to fulfill that craving, and in the process, you control their emotional rhythm, making them feel more and more dependent on the anticipation you've carefully cultivated. The longer they wait, the stronger their desire becomes, and the deeper they fall under your spell. Keep a certain distance, even in close moments. Maintaining a certain distance, even when you're physically or emotionally close, is a powerful technique that keeps others intrigued, yearning, and emotionally dependent on you. The idea is to never fully allow someone to get too close, to leave a space between you and them that keeps them always reaching, always wondering. This distance creates a sense of mystery and uncertainty that makes the other person invest more emotionally, trying to bridge the gap you've left. It is this subtle yet powerful dynamic that keeps them engaged, never fully satisfied, and constantly chasing after more. In intimate moments, whether it's a conversation, a touch, or a shared experience, you pull back just enough to leave them wanting more. You might share a personal story or a vulnerable moment, only to immediately shift the conversation, leaving them hanging, wanting to know more. You may offer physical closeness, but not enough to make them feel fully comfortable. For example, in a conversation, you might lean in just enough to be engaging, but then withdraw your attention slightly, making them feel like they need to work for your focus. This emotional and physical distance creates a tension that makes your presence feel more valuable. People naturally gravitate toward what they can't fully have, and by keeping a piece of yourself just out of reach, you trigger their desire to possess it. The more they sense that they can never fully capture you, the deeper their obsession becomes, as they're emotionally driven to close the gap, to break through the barrier you've carefully maintained. Control the narrative of your interactions. Controlling the narrative of your interactions is a powerful dark seduction technique that positions you as the dominant force in any conversation or relationship. This strategy involves subtly steering the direction of your exchanges, shaping how others perceive you, and determining what information they receive about you and your intentions. By mastering the art of narrative control, you manipulate how people think, feel, and react to you, ensuring that their emotional investment remains firmly in your hands. To control the narrative, you begin by framing the conversation. You choose the topics, guide the flow, and subtly insert your perspective in ways that lead others to see things from your point of view. You don't need to force opinions on them. Instead, you ask carefully crafted questions, make specific statements, or offer suggestions that direct their thoughts in the direction you want them to go. This makes them feel as though they are discovering truths about you, when in reality, you're carefully shaping the path they walk. The true power of this technique comes from its ability to influence emotions and reactions without the other person even realizing it. By controlling what they know, you control how they feel. You can make them see you as the ideal partner, the perfect confidant, or the unattainable figure of desire. You keep them engaged, emotionally invested, and eager to please, all while subtly dictating the terms of the interaction. Over time, they begin to see you through the lens you've crafted, forever drawn to the image you've shaped for them, a carefully constructed version of yourself that keeps them hooked, always wanting more. Offer them a glimpse of something forbidden. The allure of the forbidden is a powerful force in dark seduction. When you offer someone a glimpse into a world they know they shouldn't want but can't resist, you create an emotional tension that pulls them deeper into your sphere. It's not about fully giving them what they crave. It's about teasing them with the idea of it, just enough to spark their imagination, but never enough to fully satisfy their desires. The forbidden, by its very nature, becomes something they feel compelled to pursue, even if they know it's something they shouldn't. This tactic works by showing them a side of you that is tantalizingly out of reach, something they can never fully possess but can't stop thinking about. You might reveal a moment of intimacy, a personal secret, or an expression of desire that feels both thrilling and dangerous. It's the idea of what could be if only they were able to cross a line. This small act of revealing something forbidden stirs curiosity, excitement, and longing, pushing them to imagine what else you might have hidden just beneath the surface. The psychological power here is in the emotional roller coaster that follows. The more you offer, the more they crave. Each brief, tantalizing glimpse of something forbidden only fuels their desire to go further, to explore the boundaries of what you've shown them. You become a symbol of temptation, and the more they fixate on what's just out of reach, the more they become obsessed with getting closer, becoming emotionally dependent on the chase for what they think they can never have. In this dynamic, you hold all the power, and they will continue to pursue you, driven by the burning need to explore the forbidden parts of your world. Create a false sense of security before pulling away. Creating a false sense of security is one of the most potent psychological manipulations in dark seduction. It works by luring someone into a place of emotional comfort where they believe they are in control, safe, or even secure in their connection with you. They begin to feel that they understand you, that they have a firm grasp on the dynamic between you. They let their guard down, feeling confident in their place, and they start to trust you. But just when they are at their most vulnerable, you pull away, shifting emotionally or physically, leaving them uncertain, confused, and desperately seeking what they once had. This technique capitalizes on the deep human need for stability and emotional attachment. By providing a sense of closeness and validation, you make them feel as if they've earned your attention, that they are your priority. You let them believe that they've unlocked your inner world, offering them comfort and reassurance. But then, just as they've begun to settle into this false sense of security, you withdraw, subtly at first, then more pronounced. Your attention shifts, your responses become distant, and the emotional connection they thought they had is suddenly out of reach. The brilliance of this tactic lies in its ability to create an emotional roller coaster. Once you pull away, they are left disoriented and craving the warmth and closeness they once felt. This creates a sense of emotional instability, and they will find themselves scrambling to regain the security they now realize was never guaranteed. The more you withhold, the more they'll seek your approval, your presence, your validation, driven by the fear of losing the connection they thought they had. In the end, you control their emotional state by offering them just enough to keep them coming back, but never enough to fully satisfy their need. Make them compete for your attention. Making others compete for your attention is a powerful psychological strategy that plays on their primal need for validation and approval. When you position yourself as someone highly sought after, you create a dynamic where people feel the need to prove themselves worthy of your time and affection. This tactic taps into their insecurity and desire to be the one who stands out, who earns your favor above others. By creating a competitive environment, you not only increase your value in their eyes, but you also place yourself in a position of control, watching as they vie for your attention and approval. To execute this technique, you must be selective in where and how you give your attention. You never make it easy for anyone to gain it. Whether you are in a group setting or one-on-one, you can engage with others without appearing to prioritize anyone in particular. You may offer subtle praise or affection, but never fully commit to one person. By interacting with multiple people and providing only fleeting moments of attention, you make them feel as if they need to outperform each other to capture your interest. The beauty of this dynamic lies in the tension it creates. As they start to compete, they will subconsciously put more effort into impressing you, showcasing their best qualities and attempting to win your approval. The competition stirs a sense of urgency, making them emotionally invested in your favor. And in the end, they don't just want your attention, they want to be the one who earned it, giving you the power to shape their actions, desires, and thoughts, all while keeping them engaged and obsessed with winning your approval. Make their emotions your playground. Making someone's emotions your playground is the ultimate dark seduction technique, where you control the highs and lows of their feelings to keep them trapped in a cycle of desire and dependence. This approach turns their emotional state into something you can manipulate at will, playing with their desires, fears, and insecurities like a master puppeteer. You become the architect of their emotional world, subtly guiding them to feel what you want them to feel when you want them to feel it. The key to making emotions your playground lies in creating the perfect emotional tension. You alternate between emotional warmth and cold detachment, between affection and withdrawal, knowing exactly when to give and when to take. One moment, you shower them with attention, making them feel desired and special, only to pull away the next, leaving them aching for more. This push-pull dynamic keeps them on an emotional roller coaster, unable to escape the grip of their own emotional investment in you. You can also play on their insecurities, using their fears and doubts to make them crave your validation, subtly highlighting their weaknesses or making them feel uncertain about their worth in your eyes triggers a deep emotional response, pushing them to seek reassurance from you. As their emotional state fluctuates, they become more and more dependent on you to feel secure, validated, or wanted. You become the focal point of their emotional highs and lows, and they will seek you out over and over again, desperate to feel the emotional rush you've carefully orchestrated. By making their emotions your playground, you create a dynamic where they are constantly striving to meet your emotional needs, always caught in the ebb and flow of your control. You have the power to shape their desires, fears, and attachments, leaving them forever hooked and eager for the next emotional hit.